All right, welcome everyone to the Business Freedom and Legacy Summit 2026. I'm excited to present our guest speaker today. Uh, Her name is Linda Binns, and she's helped women who are very accomplished return back to themselves. Through her personal energy blueprint work, she guides women to reconnect with their natural way of operating so their decisions, leadership, and visibility feel grounded and not forced. Her approach blends lived experience with deep practical wisdom. The result isn't optimization, it's recognition of what was already true and it's waiting to be trusted. Her work moves women away from pressure, comparison, and shoulds and toward clarity, self trust, and success that is both powerful and deeply authentic. Welcome, Linda, to the Business Freedom and Legacy Summit 2026. I'm excited to have you on here today. And we connected a few times recently, and I was able to experience a little bit of what you do and your work, and it's really powerful. So, could you let the audience know a little bit of how you got into this work, your background, and
Sure.
what you've been noticing as you're moving forward in this
Yes,
energy
well, first of all,
blueprint?
thank you, Jen, for inviting me and for allowing me to be part of the summit, and for the great work that you do. I started my business probably about 27 years ago now, and I hadn't intended to start a business. I'm very much an introvert, very sensitive person, and so the idea of being out there in front of people was very difficult for me. But I started learning about actually holistic health, first of all, holistic nutrition, understanding how the foods we put into our body affect us and how we can heal ourselves by what we put into our bodies, about the energy of our body, and many sort of modalities that went along with that. And I was so excited by what I was learning. I just felt I have to share this with other people. I also started hearing about this thing called feng shui, which was about the energy of your environment and how that impacts you, and how you can work with the energy in your environment to support you. And so I studied to become a feng shui practitioner. And when I started my business, I was doing those two things: holistic health consulting, feng shui consulting. And it was just amazing, the transformations people experienced. I did that. I was actually in St. Louis in Missouri at the time, and I did that for 9 years. And then my husband got a new job, and we moved. So we moved to Idaho, and I had to start over. And so I didn't know anybody. I really had to start from the beginning. So I realized that I needed to be able to run my business from anywhere, to work with people from anywhere. So I started looking more into what I could do online. And in that process, I worked with a business coach, and we really had to sort of dig deep to find out what is it I do essentially. What is most important to me. And we what we came up with was that it's energy. It's all about energy, and energy is everything. It's about how we show up in the world, how we create what we're creating in our lives, and if we don't like it, how we can change it by working with energy. So I started sort of developing more online programs and coaching and all of that, just around the concept of energy. Because I thought, well, it's not really about the tool, it's about what the person needs, what's going to be most helpful for them. And we were in Idaho for 6 years, then we moved again to Oregon, which is where we are now. And so over that period of time, my business has evolved, but it's always been coming back to what feels good to me, what is the thing I really want to do with people. And it wasn't easy to come up with. And I'd done a number of personality tests and various things, which were all very helpful and gave me a lot of information about myself. But at one point, nothing had really changed. I was still in this state of, well, what is it I do? What is it that really, not just what I do for people, but what lights me up? And so I started putting some of the most useful profiles together, and came up with what I call an energy blueprint. And all of a sudden, the clarity was amazing. It just really made sense of everything I'd done, of who I am. It made sense of what had worked for me and what hadn't worked for me and why. And it just was so illuminating. And then I realized, this is it. This is what I want to do with people. And so that's kind of how it was born, really. It's like taking the best of everything I've done and everything I've learned and all my experiences and putting them into this one thing.
Awesome. So then how did that change what you did, in your everyday life and with your business? And what were the results from incorporating?
Yeah, so when I first started my business, as I said, I didn't know anything about business. I just wanted to share this information. So I just went out there and was in as many places as I could be. Worked hard to get over my fear of standing in front of people and talking. So I did lots of speaking engagements, lots of networking, lots of workshops, and just inviting people, educating people, telling them about what I did. And then, if people wanted to work with me, they would come to me. And then people started saying, oh, do you have a business plan? Do you have a marketing plan? Do you have a sales strategy? And I thought, no, I don't have any of those, because I have no business background. And so I went down that path of working with coaches to get a business plan, a marketing plan, and all of those things. I've done so many business programs and marketing programs. And the interesting but very frustrating thing about all of that was, it seemed like the more of that I did, the worse my results became. An example was, there was a program I had signed up for, which was a year-long program, and I signed up for it because it was coaches. They had multiple coaches, and they would be guiding you every step of the way, sort of really helping you identify what to do and then ensuring that you were doing it in the right way. And the guarantee of this program was, you will triple your email list by the end of this program. And so I signed up for this program. And I did everything they said, and I was working with the coaches, so I knew everything I was putting out there and everything I was doing was right. We created a program, I created a lead magnet and a funnel and all of those things. And honestly, by the end of the 1 year, my email list had cut in half. And I know it worked for probably the majority of the people in that program, but it didn't work for me. So this became a huge frustration to me, and I felt like I was constantly looking out there for the answer. What was the answer for me? What was the strategy I needed? There was obviously something I was missing. But what I learned when I did the blueprint, in fact, I've underlined a couple of lines in my blueprint so I can share it with you. Mm-hmm. And it says that for me, I really can't model what somebody else is doing. It says you will have to make up your life as you go along. The path you walk through life cannot replicate in any way another person's. Although you can draw inspiration from other people, you need never follow them or copy them. You are your own guide. So, and says it is of great importance that you really enjoy your life. So, and you are here to learn to love the unknown. So that was hard to hear, because I was looking for the answer, like, tell me what the strategy is that's going to work for me. And so I took that to heart in terms of, now what I do is I just focus on what feels good to me, what lights me up, what do I want to do. I don't have a marketing strategy. I still don't have a business plan or a marketing plan. I just do things that feel right to me. Yes, I've got to show up. Yes, I've got to be out there. Otherwise, people don't know what I do. But I have to do that in a way that feels good to me. So that's what I do. And I only focus on doing things that I enjoy. And I do them because I enjoy them. The minute I start to attach a goal to that. So, for example, one program I was involved with, one of the speakers said, right, we've got to set a goal. How many people do you want to sign up on your list from this program? Or how many new clients do you want? And I realized that the moment I do that, it takes away the enjoyment for me. Mm-hmm. So I have to do it because I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And it's like clients naturally come from that because I'm out there just being myself. Now, I'm not recommending this for anybody else. I'm probably in the 1% of people that this applies to, right? But for me, it explained everything, and changed the way I approach my business, the way I approach my life, and has taken away all self-doubt, all frustration, all of that, because it's really clear to me now, who I am and what to do.
I love it when you say don't compare yourself to anyone else, because I think that's something that, as women and just people in general and entrepreneurs, especially with everything going on with social media, it's really easy to compare yourself. So how do you not compare yourself to anyone else that seems to be maybe further ahead or in a similar niche and maybe, scaling up their business? How does that?
Yeah, and that was something I did a lot of. I used to compare myself constantly. Now I see what other people are doing and I see their success, and I'm just very happy for them. But I just don't feel this need to do what they're doing, or I don't feel less in any way because I'm not there yet. Or, I truly feel I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm doing exactly what I want to do, and I am growing and expanding both personally and professionally at the rate that is right for me. So it's a beautiful thing. It's so freeing to feel like that, especially when and I've always known since I was a child that I'm very different from most people. I was constantly told that, why can't you be like everybody else? But I can't be, because that's not me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really don't compare myself to anybody else. I support other people's success, and I'm really happy for them. And I'm in my lane and I do my thing.
Mm-hmm. And so you use a lot of different personality tests, you mentioned, to combine together to ensure that you get a full picture. And so with people knowing about personality tests, there's a lot that are out there. There's the DISC test and Myers-Briggs, and my husband, who's a clinical counseling psychologist therapist, has used quite a lot of them. You have certain ones that you use to get a full picture. So can you explain how that works to kind of look at people's energy levels? It's more than, you said, introvert versus extrovert, or those types of energy. There's multiple layers when it comes to that.
Yeah. So the profiles I've chosen to use are the ones that I would say go the deepest, give you the more of an energetic profile rather than the outer, which is introvert, type A personality, those kinds of things. It's not so much about what you do, it's about who you are. And so the ones I've chosen to use are the Enneagram, Human Design, Gene Keys, and something called IVQ, which is Instinctual Variant, which shows you, what's very important to you. So for me, that's on the Instinctual Variant. Social is the most important thing. So to me, relationships are the key to everything, and it's not about me going out there and because I used to think of myself as such a failure, because let's say I did a webinar and people would say it's all about the numbers, you've got to get numbers, and how many do you want? So okay, well, I want 100 people on this webinar, and I might get 10, and I would think, well, I failed, and so then I would think, well, that doesn't work, so I'd be on to the next thing. And now I realize 10 is magnificent, 3 is wonderful. It doesn't matter, because I actually work better with smaller groups of people because I get to know them much more deeply. So this is these personality profiles, and especially the combination of them, has really helped me to see that. So I've let go of all of that feeling of failure if I don't get lots of people. I'm not trying to get lots of people. I'm trying to get the people I know I can work with and who need this and who are ready for it, because then I can help them.
And you can go much deeper. That's what I noticed.
Yes, it goes much deeper.
You can go and see lasting change and real transformation.
Yes.
So with regards to the whole blueprint that you're creating for yourself and others, what are the things that people notice when they start to implement that blueprint into their daily life? Like what happens at that point?
Right. Well, we had talked about that before, so I thought the best thing for me to do, rather than just telling from my perspective, is to read some of the things people have said.
Mm-hmm.
And that will help you understand what people get from it. So one person said, the blueprint has helped me realize there was never anything wrong with me. This is who I am. I don't have to fight it or question it anymore. Now I feel better because I can see that I'm being my authentic self, and I don't need to worry about that anymore. Another person said, I started implementing what was in my blueprint and I already feel like a different person. One thing that really resonated was learning that I need time to make decisions, and every time I rushed before, it backfired, and now I understand why. And what I love is that I don't have to change everything at once. I can take one thing from my blueprint and integrate it step by step. It just helps you understand very clearly who you are, to recognize, like I thought there was something wrong with me. It wasn't anything wrong with me. It's just I was trying to work against myself. I was trying to do what works for other people. And that truly didn't work for me. And so now I don't worry about any of that anymore. I focus only on what works for me. So, those are the kinds of things that it helps people discover. Another one, this one I really like. She said, so I've been working with someone over a few weeks, and she said, over the past weeks, I've seen parts of myself I didn't realize existed. And, we think we know ourselves pretty well. And so the people I work with are smart, accomplished women who, they've risen to the top in their careers, and maybe now they want to start a business, or they had been quite successful in business, and perhaps now things are not, maybe it's not as fulfilling anymore for them, or they're at a point where they feel stuck. So they're very smart. They know a lot about themselves. But just like this woman said, I've seen parts of myself I didn't realize were there. And that's true. And it was the same for me, and that's what I think the combination of these particular profiles does for you. It really helps you see those parts you haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like something in psychology. They talk about the Johari window, where there's the known, you know about yourself, others know about you. There's the secret, only you know about yourself. There's those things that only others know about you, so it's a blind spot. And then there's the completely unknown areas. So it sounds like it almost brings in those completely unknown areas or blind spots that people may have.
Yeah, and one question people keep asking is, why do I seem to sabotage myself, or why do I constantly doubt myself, or why is it that I'm pursuing this, I achieve it, but it doesn't feel good? I thought I would be really happy and fulfilled when I achieved this, and I don't. Why is that? So it's not like you can't accomplish anything without knowing who you really are, or your blueprint. You can accomplish a lot, but there's this hollow feeling even when you do accomplish a lot. So it really takes away. It takes away the any doubts, really. It just helps you connect with who you are. And like I said before, there's a freedom that comes with that, because you stop guessing, you stop doubting, you stop pursuing, you just know, okay, this is me, this is what works for me, this is what doesn't work for me, and away you go.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then how do you combine that with how fast everything's changing with, in the business realm, online, and how they say, it's better to make fast decisions because of, everything's happening so quickly that by the time you've made a decision, probably something's changed in the marketplace, because the market is changing so rapidly.
Yeah.
How do you combine that with, if someone has, energy blueprint similar to what you have, where it's, they take a little bit of some time to make a decision? How do you combine the two? Because you also don't want to be in a place where someone's stuck in, paralysis analysis, and then
Right.
those opportunities are passing
Right.
by, and
Yes.
things are
And
changing.
Yeah, that's a good question. And, I used to be very proud of myself that I made fast decisions. And, if I had an idea to do something, I'd do it right away. I would not take any time to think about it. And I also realized that in large part that was how I was fighting against myself, because that is not what's true for me. Now, that may be the way for many, many other people to work. Um, I just know that that's not right for me, and it's not right for everybody. So it's finding what is true for you. And if what is true for you is to make those instant decisions, then that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But if what is true for you, like that other person and like me, that now what I do is I have an idea or something comes up, and I have to sit with it for a while. I don't sit with it for months, but just a day maybe, or a week at the most, and sit with it and see if it continues to feel right to me. I just had an idea last week of something I might like to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it would be really helpful for my business as well. But most of all, I will enjoy it. But in the past, I would have started it immediately. And now I've just been sitting with it for the week to see, does it still feel good? And it does. It still feels good. In fact, it feels better now than it did when I first thought of it. So that's something I'm definitely going to pursue. But this is why it's so helpful to know what works for you, because I was making those fast decisions, and that was going against myself, against my energy. It was the opposite of how I needed to work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about finding, if that's the way you need to work, if that's what works for you, absolutely that's what you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then in the age of AI starting to really, be part of everyone's lives and causing a lot of disruption, how do you see this blueprint impacting entrepreneurs looking at their energy blueprint to be able to stay uniquely who they are? Because the only thing I guess that AI can't really replace is our essence, our true nature of who we truly are on the inside. Like they can do a lot of the, tactical things, but the actual true nature of who we are, they cannot ever replicate. So how would you kind of describe how that could be something that could be an advantage during this AI revolution that's happening currently?
Well, here's how I use it. I've actually put my blueprint into my AI thing that I use, and I've asked it to, and any recommendations it gives me, any suggestions, anything, anything it does for me comes from that. And it does, it picks up on things, sometimes, be careful of this, you don't want to, because one of the things, I've discovered from my blueprint, I'm very much according to the Enneagram, the peacemaker and the helper personality. So I focus on other people, and very often at the expense of myself. That's very easy for me to do. So I have to watch out for that, because that's not healthy for me, it's not healthy for them. So it will sometimes pick up on that, where I'm thinking about the other people more than I'm thinking about myself, and it'll ask me to do a check-in with myself. So it's been very helpful actually to put my blueprint into that, and it helps me in my business. If I'm writing something for my business, then I can run it past the AI thing, and it can point out to me areas that I could improve it, to keep it in my voice and to keep it true to my blueprint. So I think the two can go together.
Okay, that sounds really good. Because people are probably also concerned, when there's a lot of things that can happen with regards to, cloning ourselves, and then people could compare themselves to their clone, because as people age and they only have a certain amount of energy, they have to sleep, whereas AI can, keep going 24/7, never ages. So there could be a lot of comparison with regarding, the person even comparing themselves to their own AI. So I think that seeing their essence and who they are, having that energy blueprint, knowing, who they are in their spirit and soul is going to be really game changing and life changing for a lot of people, because then they don't have to compare themselves to anyone else or even to themselves, when they got cloned. with AI.
Absolutely. It just takes away that need for comparison. And like I said, I did it all the time. I think, how come that person's doing so well? They're on the same program as me. I'm doing the same things. Why am I not seeing the same results? And now I know why. So I don't need to compare. I don't need to, judge myself against anybody else. I just have to just do what feels right for me and just be the best me that I can be.
Okay, awesome. So with regards to kind of moving a business forward and getting things accelerating and scaling up, how do you use the blueprint to support people with that aspect of things if they do really want to be
Well,
super
again, it's
successful?
going to tell them, exactly what's right for them. So for me, in terms of marketing, let's just take that. It, it it shows me that I have to do so. The whole lead magnet funnel thing, I've done many of those in the past, and that is not right for me. I was actually very afraid of doing video. I used to hate doing video, but that's actually good for me to do. Now I'm more comfortable with it. I actually quite like doing it. Interviews, I love doing interviews like this because I get to talk to somebody, because that brings in that social aspect. So it's about, you can accelerate and you can grow, but you do it in the way that's right for you. And so if you try to do it in the way that's everybody else is doing it, let's say, or that we're told we should do it, or, you can be fighting against yourself, and you may get results, but you're draining yourself. Like I said, fighting against yourself and draining your energy at the same time. Because usually, by the time people come to see me, they're usually at that point where they've been fighting against themselves for so long, they've completely lost sight of who they are. And that was me too. So yes, you can absolutely accelerate and grow your business. Like, I can accelerate and grow my business. It's just going to be slow because I have to do it a person at a time, and I have to do it in because I work so deeply with people. I can't do an event where I'm trying to get 100 or 200 people. Somebody sent me a message the other day, I can get you 35 new clients a month. And I said, I don't want 35 new clients a month. I couldn't work with 35 new clients a month. It's too much. So I do believe I'm going to scale and grow, but I'm going to do it in my own time. And my own time is going to be far too slow for many, many people. They're going to say, well, I would hate that. But that may not be true for them, right? It's what's true for me. And that's why we don't compare.
Okay, gotcha. So then, for those that are good with one-to-many, I guess they can scale up using that energy blueprint to know what time of the day is preferable to meet with those groups. And I guess if it's one-to-one for some people's energy blueprint, they can always increase their rates and their program pricing and cost of the program, because then they can maybe serve people that can afford it, so that they understand the value that's involved. Because if you have people that see that value and they're willing to pay a higher amount for it, I think that's the way to scale the one-to-one. And then with the one-to-many, just knowing what time of day and how much to put into those group programs. So is there something you've noticed with regards to seeing your energy blueprint and being able to create something with both of those ways of being, whether it's a one-to-one impact or one-to-many? Have you seen something in particular?
Well, I actually do like doing group things, and so I have my one-to-one, like creating the personal energy blueprint and helping somebody through that is very much a one-to-one. But then I also have programs which are group programs where you've got your blueprint and you're working through it all together, and those are wonderful because everybody supports each other. So for me, I have both of those things going on. So whatever it is you do and whatever it is that's right for you, there's nothing to say that it only has to be one-on-one. You can do group things. I also have a mastermind group that I love. And, that again is people supporting each other in business, but doing it from the knowledge of who they are through their blueprint. So it doesn't. I think it's my approach in terms of how I get started with people tends to be one-to-one, unless if they're already self-aware and they may already have done all of these profiles, in which case they might want to jump straight into the group program, which is perfectly possible. So for me, how am I going to expand? I have no idea. Remember, I have to be comfortable with the unknown. So I have no idea, but that's certainly where I want to go. And, again, it's what is right for you. What is the best way for you to work? And once you know that and you start doing it and you start experiencing how good that is and you start getting results, then you can grow from there. You can expand from there.
Mm-hmm. And you were mentioning if someone is an extrovert and really loves being around people, to start to take time to spend with yourself and be comfortable with yourself, and just to notice how that is, how you are when you're just being by yourself and only with your own company. And so what are the advantages to being able to just sit and be quiet and enjoy your own company versus being with people all the time? Like, what are the advantages for people's personal growth and development and business growth as well?
Well, I work with quite a few extroverts, and they do need downtime as well. And just because they get energized by being around lots of people. Mm-hmm. That's what feeds them, that lights them up, they love it. But after an interaction like that, maybe a full day of being around people, although that does feed them, they need that time for themselves to recharge again so they can go back and do that again, right? And for me, if I go into a group, so if I went to a networking meeting, there were lots of people there, I now know enough about my energy to know that I have to prepare myself energetically before I go to that. So I'm in I feel good and I'm in a good sort of calm space. I go to the networking meeting, I enjoy talking to people. And then when I come back, I really have to give myself some downtime. So it might be the rest of the day. So I can't, although again, when I first started my business, I used to do this, multiple networking events in a day, every day of the week. Sometimes, I would be out there all the time. But that's completely opposite to what really works for me. And eventually you will get burnt out doing that if that's not your personality. But extroverts get their energy from being around lots of people or being, working with people all the time. But you've still got to have that downtime because you've got to have some time to reset and rebalance your energy before you go out there and do it again. Mm-hmm. And there's an element of how sensitive you are. There's a category of people called highly sensitive people, which I'm in, which is about 20 to 30% of the population, which simply means our nervous systems are kind of wired differently, and we pick up energy and emotions and all kinds of things very, very easily. And if you don't understand that about yourself and you don't know what to do with it, it can be very easy when you're around a lot of people to absorb a lot of that energy and emotion, and then you feel terrible at the end of it. Before I knew all of this, if I went to a conference, I remember going to a Louise Hay event, a long time ago, and I just had the worst migraine headache, and it was horrible because I went with a group of people and I was the driver. It was quite a long way away, so I spent a lot of my time out having to leave the event just because I had this huge headache. Now I know that it's because of that ability to pick up on all that energy. So I ensure if I go somewhere like that, that's not going to happen again. I prepare myself so I don't pick up on all of that energy. Mm-hmm. So it again, understanding how you work, understanding what works for you. Extroverts can pick up on that energy too, which again is why they may need to reset and have time to themselves afterwards to let go of that.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm alone doing something, just a little bit of self-care, I get the best revelations and the best ideas for business or just things in general. So I think that's important, even though, being an extrovert, I love being around people all the time. But those times when I do have a little bit of time to myself, it's amazing, what comes to me, the great ideas that I get.
It is, and nobody can keep up that level of constant interaction all the time. I don't care how extroverted you are and how much you love it and it feeds you. There always has to be some downtime. And like you said, if your life is constantly full and you've constantly got people around you and there's no time for you, those ideas can't come, those thoughts can't come because there's no room for it. Your mind is constantly going. So I think it's so important for everybody to allow themselves that time. And sometimes that's the hardest thing for people to do. It was very hard for me initially, even though, I'm an introvert. I remember a friend saying to me, you have to do something nice for yourself every day. And I thought, I don't know what that means. What does that look like? I couldn't even comprehend it. Now I do. Now I definitely do.
Yeah, so somebody like I think the way that you are is very similar to how my husband is because being in the clinical counseling psychology practice realm, he's very sensitive to other people's emotions and facial expressions, body language, their energy, their way of being. So if he's in a crowded area or in a group area like a conference or something like that you were mentioning that you were in, he can pick up on every single person's body language, facial expressions, the energy that they're exuding, and it's just very overwhelming. So he has to try to
Yes.
tune a lot of that out because he can see everything at once. And when he used to do public speaking, when he first started, he'd be hanging on to that podium and his knees would be knocking and shaking together. Now he can do it, very easily. But so how does that relate to the energy blueprint with regards to if somebody looks at it and they see, okay, they're this type of person, how do they kind of break out of their shell in a sense to kind of expand, like you said, to get uncomfortable in situations so that they can continue to grow in their business and in their personal life? What are some
Well,
things that you recommend for that?
yeah, I do believe that even if you're an introvert like me, there's a side of me that can be more extroverted. And so I'm exactly like your husband. When I first started, I used to be holding on to my notes, and it was very, very scary for me to do. And one of the things I did in the beginning was I would say to people, I'm not a speaker. I'm just up here to share information. As if I thought if they're expecting a motivational speaker, it's kind of lots of high energy. And I did go on a presentation skills course once where they were trying to tell me that I needed to play this really high upbeat music before I went on stage. That's just not me. But so you can, if it's important to you, and if it's what's right for you. So I actually love speaking in front of groups now. I never thought I would ever be able to say that. And the way I got over it wasn't about me, it was about them and the information I was sharing. And I focused on what I wanted, the fact that I wanted them to get something that was useful from this, that they could go away with and apply. So I stopped thinking about me and what they thought of me and what I looked like and all those kinds of things. And I focused only on the information. And as long as I do that, I really enjoy it. As long as it's not about me and me being the focus or the center of attention. Again, because I'm the peacemaker and the helper, I like to focus on the other people. So as long as I do that, I can tap into that slight bit of extrovert I've got inside me, and I can do that on the stage, but then afterwards I've got to come down and really sort of ground myself and take care of myself after I've done that. So I think if it's important to you, you can find a way to do it in a way that works for you. Just because you're scared of something, or even though I was scared of it, I knew it was something that was necessary, and it was actually something I wanted to do. I didn't want to be scared of it, but I was initially. But it was something I wanted to do and knew I needed to do. So I found the way that was right for me to do it.
Okay. And when you said the word, you're a peacemaker, that's interesting because that's what my husband always says. He uses it for, you know, anything when he has to use a different name, he'll always be peacemaker, or, you know, anything that has to do with, you know, everything in his life. He has peacemaker everywhere. So when you think of someone who's like a peacemaker, how does that relate to business as well? Because sometimes I think you almost think of it as being almost people pleasing in a sense, or you know, really always adjusting themselves to other people to accommodate others. So how can you step away from that people pleasing aspect of it, really show up genuinely who you are, and being able to enroll people into your business when you're a peacemaker? How does that work?
Yeah, so I was very much a people pleaser because, like I said, I focused on other people more than I focused on myself. Um, for me, it took an event where well, I had started a business with someone because it was something she wanted to do, and I said it was actually starting a magazine. She was a writer. And I said, she came to me and we were talking about it, and I agreed to help her start it, to get the people on board, to, you know, get a board together till we got the first issue out. And I was always very clear right from the beginning, as soon as we get the first issue ready, then I will step away, because this is not something I want to do long term. I'm excited to help you get it started, but I'm going to walk away. So when we got to that point and the first issue was ready to come out, everyone on the board said, I said, well, it's time, you know, it's time for me to walk away now. And they said, no, you can't. What are we going to do? We need you to stay, and all of that. And so against everything I knew, I agreed to stay. But again, I said, I'll stay for a certain period of time and then I'll go. I was there for 5 years, because I didn't want to let anybody down, right? And those 5 years were miserable because it was not what I wanted to be doing, and it took me away from what I did want to be doing. And so I really made up my mind at that point, I will never do that again. Taking care of other people or doing what other people want me to do when it's at the expense of myself. If it's not something that's right for me, then I'm not going to do it. So that's kind of a peacemaker, right? It's, you don't want to let anybody down, but in the process of not wanting to let anybody down, you let yourself down, right? And so that's the unhealthy version of the peacemaker. So through the profile of the Enneagram, you can see what the unhealthy version looks like, which is what I just described, and what a healthy version of a peacemaker looks like, which is, perhaps my ability to work with groups and make sure everybody's getting exactly what they need, but not at the expense of myself. So that's the key to it. So how do you change it? Well, first you have to become aware of what you're doing and how is it affecting you. And I think the other thing I realized was that for me to be able to work with people effectively, to be the best that I can be, to be able to help them most effectively, I cannot be doing things at the expense of myself. I have to take care of my energy, and then I have the best energy to bring to what I do, and I'm able to help people so much more. So it was understanding that helped me move to a healthier version of the peacemaker, because I am a peacemaker. It's, and in my family, I was always the one trying to calm everything down, make everybody happy. So it's about moving to that healthier version of who you are, and recognizing that there is there's a scale, there's an unhealthier version, and moving away from that, so that it's best for you and best for everyone around you.
And a lot of it comes from maybe how we're raised, what we're taught growing up. We talked about that together as well, about how when you do business, you need to promote yourself and talk about yourself and your business, and it's quite counterintuitive to what we've been raised to do, to promote other people and to encourage others with regards to, their business or their corporation. And we talked about how we're raised to not toot our own horn or to promote ourselves. So it's very different to start a business when you have all these, or people in general have these subconscious counter intentions to building their business, even asking for your value or your worth to be paid, close to your value. Of course, we'll never be fully paid our true value and worth because it's infinite, but even just, a little bit closer to our value. So how does this energy blueprint talk about the subconscious trainings that we've been having as we, ingrained into us as we've been growing up, and how to kind of work on those and start to overcome those so we can really accelerate in our personal lives and in our business lives as well?
Yeah, so an example would be, so networking always used to be very painful for me because you're not supposed to talk about yourself. That's what I was conditioned to believe. You don't talk about yourself, you don't toot your own horn, you certainly don't interrupt people, so I would go to a networking event and kind of stand around and hope that somebody would come talk to me or something like that. Understanding myself again through the blueprint, I know, there's two things I do now that's different. One is I know that if I attend, so I pick very carefully which networking events I go to. There's a local one that I go to. It's networking for introverts. It's called Quiet Networking. And I love it because the organizer, and you think, because it's a room full of introverts, nobody's going to be talking. I tell you that they can't stop talking, by the end. And it's because she gives us a question. She gives us something to talk about. She gives us a focus. So you're not just aimlessly going up to somebody saying, oh, what do you do? And what do you, this is what I do. No, we focus, we hone in on a question. And introverts, especially highly sensitive introverts, we don't do superficial conversations very well. We go much deeper than that. So the questions give us that opportunity to go deeper, and it's wonderful. That's a great way of networking. So that's one way. The other way that I found that works for me is, if it's a group I really do want to be involved with, is that I help the organizer in some way. So when it was in-person networking that we used to do, I might be on a committee or something, or I might volunteer to be on the desk, checking people in when they came. If I have something to do, that's much better for me. Because again, it's not all about me. I'm not trying to say, here I am, this is what I do. I naturally get to meet people because I'm greeting them, or, I'm involved in something. So that's what I've learned about myself through my blueprint, is I have to find those alternative ways to do it. I did an interview series recently called the Self-Led Woman interview series. As I interviewed 6 women, and one of the women on there, she's highly introverted, more so than me. She's a web designer and does a lot of online sort of tech stuff. And she was saying her happy place is her office, right? She doesn't like to go outside her office. But in the beginning, when she started her business and she would go to networking events, and she said she was aware that people would ask her questions, about websites or online questions. And so what she started to do was create little videos that answered those questions. Mm-hmm. And then she would send those out to people. So, if somebody asked her a question in a networking event, she would, say, well, I have a video on that. I can send that to you, collect their information and send it. And then people started saying to her, oh my gosh, you're everywhere. I'm seeing you all the time. And she said, I never moved out of my office hardly, so that's what worked for her. So there are ways. We just have to find those ways that are right for you. And we can do that once we know who you are at the deepest level.
Yeah, I've heard that's really effective, to send short videos about what you do, and it can be enrolling people without actually even having to meet them.
Yes.
On Zoom or any kind of like in-person type of meetings. You can send them a short video, and they'll usually enroll if it's done in a certain way that works for yourself and your client. So it's a lot of knowing exactly who you are, walking in your purpose and calling and destiny, which is really important, because if it's not aligned to that, then it becomes just working for the sake of working, which a lot of people do. They just work to pay their bills or to, make a basic income to live. But this way, you're talking about stepping into your purpose, your calling, using your talents, who you truly are, to align to what you're supposed to do in this world and make that greater impact. So with regards to the impact and with regards to legacy, because part of the summit has the word legacy in there, how does your blueprint affect the impact that you can make in this world for good and for creating a legacy in this world as well?
I think we are all here with gifts, with talents, with uniqueness. And the best way we can serve the world and create the best legacy is to be the best you can be, the best me that I can be. When you're trying to be someone else or trying to follow somebody else's methodology, you're not being that, especially if something doesn't feel good to you. I mean, if everything in life is working well, you get up in the morning, you're really energized, you love your life, you love every aspect of it, great, you're doing it right. You know who you are, you know what's right for you. But most of us don't. Most of us don't feel that way. And so the blueprint, by helping you understand yourself and then helping you put your energy into those things that help you be the best that you can be, when you are the best that you can be, the gifts, the skills, the transformation that you can bring to others is so much more powerful, because it's coming from the fullness of who you are rather than a little bit of who you are, because you're so focused on trying to do all these other things. Mm-hmm. So it helps us all be so much more effective, and it helps us have so much more impact on the people who need us, right? And that will continue to expand. So I think there's a quote by Aristotle, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And I truly believe that, if we don't really know ourselves, and we have to keep in mind that mostly we don't, we think we know who we are, and, we think a lot of things about ourselves. But once you truly understand who you are, what energizes you, what drains you, what is right for you, and you start showing up in that way, mm-hmm. It changes everything. And it has so much more impact on the people you serve and on the world. That I think that's the only thing we can do if we want to change the world. We've got to be ourselves and bring that into the world.
Yes, because so many people are raised by their parents to say, okay, you need to be a doctor or some kind of professional designation that they want them to be. So they have all of that programming going on, or they see others that are highly successful and they haven't, got to that level yet. So they're feeling, maybe they're letting other people down, like you mentioned. And so looking at that whole perspective, when they know themselves, know what they're supposed to do in life and the impact they're supposed to make, it's going to create a greater impact and be able to reach more people, because they're uniquely them, not trying to be a clone of somebody else or be, living up to other people's expectations of who they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to do. So do you see the subconscious start to change into something that gets rid of those old patterns and beliefs and thoughts, and that it's not running the show anymore, that there's no, self-sabotage and things that are holding them back, or contradictory or counter intentions to where they're really supposed to go once they've kind of, accepted who they truly are with their blueprint?
Yes, absolutely, because you start to see that conditioning that you've had, you start to see those patterns that have been showing up, and importantly, you start to see why they've been showing up, because patterns will show up in our lives. The patterns that, we often find that patterns repeat. I think I shared with you in a previous conversation about someone I was working with who the pattern for her was she would find a job. It was, she thought, this is the ideal job for me. And she'd be very happy there for a while, and then something in the corporation would change until she was miserable, and she ultimately left. And then same thing would happen again, same thing would happen again, same thing would happen again. And so she was just very, very frustrated, very, very miserable. And then she had several car accidents in a short period of time. And that's the point at which I first met her. And, you know, to me, it was very clear. It's like the car accidents, I think, were a sign of like, stop, pay attention. You need to change something about yourself and your life, because you can't continue to live this way, because you're so unhappy. And so, you know, as one of the things we discovered was how she didn't value herself, how she didn't feel she could ever ask for help. It was it was a sign of weakness to ask for help. It was a sign of weakness to show emotion or acknowledge emotion even. And so to me, the car accidents were a sign of, okay, stop, pay attention. This is what you need to look at. And then once she started working through that, a couple of things changed. Well, first, I encouraged her to start really focusing on what she loved. And she actually loves, she's very, very creative, and she's a really good artist. And so she started focusing on that more. That changed her energy as well, you know, knowing that she deserved to be able to do this and incorporate this into her life. So now where she is she's found an ideal job with a very small company where, you know, they really do value her. Most of all, she values herself, but she's also got a business where she's doing her artwork and selling that. So she's got that element in her life, which is so very important to her, which was being ignored before. You know, so it helps you identify those patterns. It helps you identify that conditioning that's not serving you, and then you know how to let it go. But it helps you see that they're there and how they've been running the show for you, and that you don't need them anymore. And then with that clarity comes the ability to let it go.
Wow, that's powerful. So when you see certain patterns happening in your life that you can't seem to get past, it's a good idea to find out what's causing those patterns and what you can do to change it, so you can start to step into your true identity, and then you truly live the way that you're meant to, and have the purpose and work you're meant to have. So that relates to right now with the age of AI, there's a lot of layoffs happening. You hear even, you know, 8,000 a week with one company, or, you know, that sort of thing. So with those people, do you think they need to take time to really reevaluate who they are and what they want to do? And perhaps a lot of them are leaving corporate to then start their own business or a side business as they're, you know, working with a corporation, or potentially maybe leaving a corporation. So is that something you really suggest that they do, is to take that time to really find out, was this truly their purpose with being in that corporation, or is it something else they're supposed to do in life?
I do, because, you know, so many people are so unhappy in the work that they do. Whether it's because sometimes they love the work they do, sometimes they love the people they work with, but it's the corporate culture or whatever it is. I do encourage, from understanding your blueprint, you can start to see, you know, maybe starting your own business is the thing to do. I know now I could never go back to work in any corporation. I just couldn't do it. I'd be a horrible employee anyway. So I just love to do, you know, what's good for me. But for some people, like the person I mentioned, maybe it's that balance of, well, yes, I can continue to work in a corporation, or maybe I find a smaller corporation, or it's got to be the right organization for me. But maybe I have a little business as well that I have, you know, that's meaningful to me, that makes me happy. And maybe that can grow, so that, you know, many people, what they'll do is they'll do that, and then eventually they'll move from the corporate life and go full-time into the business. So again, it's identifying those aspects that are so important to you. But most importantly, what are you tolerating? Are you staying in situations that are making you miserable and unhappy? Because I truly believe we are all here we are all meant to enjoy our lives. We are all meant to be the best that we can be and really enjoy life. And if you are not enjoying life, either be something personal or professional, then you need to pay attention to that and take a really good look at yourself and ask yourself, why am I putting up with this if I don't enjoy it?
Mm-hmm. And that joy brings freedom, right, to their soul, to their spirit, to their physical way of being, which this is something we want to talk about on this summit as well. The Business Freedom and Legacy Summit is to have that freedom where you can feel joy in everything you do. So if you find purpose in your business, or whatever work or vocation you have, then, and you're truly aligned with it, with your blueprint, then that way you can enjoy life and have fun every day, because it's not just, having to hustle and grind and try to make a living, but actually to truly make a life that's worth living for yourself and for others around you, to make it enjoyable and to live life to the full for your family as well, and to build that legacy in the future. And I know you have a free gift offer, a couple of free gift offers for everyone that's watching today and also in the replay. Can you explain those free gift offers to everybody?
Yeah, so the first free gift is just a simple, short, brief download, and it talks about 5 energy leaks that affect your success. So it's just the 5 common things that may be going on that perhaps you're not aware of, that are causing your energy to be depleted. And just being aware of that is very helpful. And so there are steps that if those are apply to you, steps that you can take to change that. And for the VIP, people who have signed up for the VIP, you get that, but you can also have a personal energy reading with me, and that is where we take a look at what's going on. We talk about what's going on in your life, professionally, personally, how you feel about it. We look at where your energy is, what emotions may be going on. Is there anything that you're tolerating or that's keeping you stuck? The goal being to come away from that session with some kind of clarity around, okay, this is what's going on, and if you start paying attention to this, then that's going to help you start making a change. And then maybe from that you'll decide, well, I'd love to go deeper and go into do a blueprint, and maybe you'll decide that personal energy reading is enough. It's going to give you clarity either way.
Yes,
so that's for the VIP people.
Yeah, I was able to take advantage of that VIP upgrade this week, and it was really powerful to have those insights into those areas that need time to restore the energy. So I really appreciated that, and I appreciate you, Linda. And so anybody that wants to have that value of, it's valued over 97, I believe it's valued higher. We talked about that before. So you would get that free with the VIP upgrade access. So just that one VIP bonus with the speaker bundle of free gift offers is, already worth it, because right now while we're live, it's 50% off if you go to businesscoachingamerica.com/VIP-access. And when you book your consultation today as well, we'll see the consultations coming in. You'll get the access to all the other speakers' free gift offers. There's a general access for anyone that doesn't have the VIP, and then if you do have the VIP, you get the general access to the speaker gift bundle as well as the VIP speakers gift bundles as well. So you'll have dozens and dozens of free gifts when you book your consultations today. All right, and I appreciate you so much, Linda. You're such an amazing woman to speak to, so easygoing, so lighthearted, and really accepting, non-judgmental, like you say. You make the people feel comfortable and accepted for who they are in their unique blueprint, because there's no competition with how you've made it to be, that they can just be authentically themselves and not have to worry about what anyone thinks about them, or what they need to project out there to pretend to be someone they're not. So I think that is something that is really powerful and effective, because a lot of people need to hear that today with everything going on in social media and how there's so much comparison going on. So they don't need to worry about that. And I think that could also save a lot of people in their mindset, their way of thinking. When they talk about mental health and all of those types of things happening online, I think that could really protect them in a lot of areas. So I really appreciate you for coming on today, Linda. And I'll also connect with you later today. I'll give you a quick call later today, and we can connect again. So, and hopefully we can have you come back again on another summit or virtual event or podcast as well.
I would love that. Thank you so much, Jen. It's been a pleasure talking with you today.
It's been a pleasure having you on. All right, we'll see you soon. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Cheers. All right, so our next guest coming up, her name is Allison McLeod, and she's a midlife leadership recalibration strategist who helps high achieving women build faith anchored authority in their leadership and lives. After decades in executive roles and navigating her own early menopause and health challenges, Allison recognized that midlife is not a crisis. It is a recalibration point. Through the faith anchored leadership recode, she guides women to restructure roles, boundaries, and next decade strategies so their success is sustainable and aligned with their calling. Her work sits at the intersection of leadership, identity, and faith, and redefining what authority looks like after 40 and beyond. Allison McLeod provides faith anchored leadership recalibration for high achieving women navigating midlife transitions. And through the faith anchored leadership recode, she guides executives and entrepreneurial women to realign leadership boundaries and next decade strategies with conviction and calling. Midlife is not a decline, it is the refinement of leadership. And one of her quotes is, remember, you are not broken, you are becoming. So I'd like to introduce and welcome Allison to the stage. And hi, Allison. Nice to see you. Welcome. And if everyone goes to businesscoachingamerica.com/summit, you can register for this event and also then get your VIP upgrade where you'll have both of the bundles from Allison and also our previous guest as well. So Allison, welcome. Tell me a little bit of your background and how you got into this line of work. What got you motivated to support women in their midlife from 40s and beyond?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jen. It's been great to be here. And for me, it's been a 20-year journey in menopause, being early menopause at 43. And previous to that, I had 2 gyms. I was teaching software upgrades to women. So it was a natural transition for me in menopause to share what I was learning, because there was nobody to tell me why I was going through what I was going through, especially after being thrown into it after surgery. So it's been a huge learning journey. And I find too that because I'm an entrepreneur and been a CEO for years, that there's a gap now as we go through menopause and all the physical changes, mental changes, spiritual, psychological changes. We get to the point where the filters are gone and we're now going, is this what I really want to do in life? I've been doing all of this for everybody else, but I don't know how to change. And there's a burnout factor and an overfunctioning factor that, especially in women who are giving and want to make ensure things get done, that we tend to take on the world as we go through menopause. And it's almost a time to let go of certain things. So we're doing what's right for us as we are Christ-centered instead of what we're doing culturally in the world and society. So it just seems to be something that has caught on, that people and women are going, okay, I need something more and I need some direction on how to get there. And I want to make sure their last decade in their working career or moving them into an entrepreneurship is something that is stronger than they've had before.
Okay, wonderful. So have you noticed women 40 and beyond, they're having a little bit more, I guess, an awareness of what they're truly wanting to see happen in their life? They're realizing maybe they had some wasted years of doing what everyone else wants them to do, taking care of their family, and now the children are grown or almost independent. What would that look like with being able to go through your recode and being able to become aware of the things that they didn't necessarily want to do? They just did it because it was expected of them, and now they're starting to reevaluate, and maybe they're starting to speak up about it, and everyone's shocked, that
Yes.
they're actually starting to stand up for themselves and have boundaries. Like what would that look like for a woman that is like starting to think about those things and maybe needing some support in those areas?
It's a great question because it's like going from a place where, okay, I'm doing all of this. I don't know what's wrong. I'm going to a job I used to absolutely love and I can do it, but there's something missing,
Okay.
right? There's something now that I'm kind of flatlining. I'm here and I can do it. I don't know if I want to do it. And sometimes, too, a lot of women have felt like, okay, now I'm, like you said, I'm an empty nester, right? I have gone to school and I have followed that schooling through my career, and I'm now a manager, a VP, or a CEO. What's next? Do I just coast for the next 10 years and then retire and do something? Or what? So it's like, let's craft that and claim what it is you want to do and what's in your heart and soul. And what can you get rid of? Because in the first phase, which we call stabilize, we work on your nervous system. We look at the audits and a leadership audit. And I love an exercise we do because it's like a wheel, it's a scope. And I say, okay, I want you to draw a wheel. And every time there's a spoke, I want you to put on it what it is you do. And that's everything from I clean the house, I take care of the kids, I do my job, I wash the car, I mow the lawn, right? Everything's there because I know when I did that 11 years ago, I couldn't fit anything else in the circle. And I'm writing up the side and across the top and down the other side. And the coach I was with said, stop. Like, do you sleep? There's nothing else left on the page. Like, no wonder you're exhausted and burned out and you don't know which way to go. And in the middle of all that, I had physical issues. I needed to get my hips replaced. And I wasn't really paying attention to all the clues and cues because I was so busy trying to figure out what else to do with my life. And I had no direction. And a lot of that, you're right. You go through the motions of what you do. You're the mom, you're the wife, you're the business owner, or you're the CEO, and you're managing everyone else. And they're happy, but there's something inside of you that has lost your joy and your spark. And it's, time to get that back.
And I think a lot of women, they put a lot of what they really truly wanted to do on the back burner. They put it on hold while they're raising children and caring for the home. That I hear a lot of women, they want to start a business or have a side business because they didn't feel like they fulfilled their true calling and purpose during that time of what they wanted to contribute to the world. And so they actually start getting busier in those ages 40 and beyond. And men tend to want to slow down because they feel like they worked hard enough, up to that age range. And so they want to start to think about retiring. And so then there's two different types of things and dynamics happening right there. So how do you see that playing out with what you do and how to support women going through that, where they want to ramp things up, and maybe their spouse wants to slow things down. So there's some kind of contradictory dynamics going on there.
Oh, that is a great question, because I had a couple come to me and he said, she doesn't want to do anything on Sunday anymore. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, she used to always cook. We watched football. Like, I don't understand. She goes out now. And does she not like me? Like, what's going on in the relationship? I said, it's not that she doesn't like you, but she's realized that that's time and space she needs for herself. She still loves you and you love football. She never loved football, but she never said that to you because she loves you. She did that for you. Now she needs time and space for herself to figure some stuff out. And he went, oh, right? Because the communication isn't always there because she doesn't know how to communicate it sometimes. I didn't know how to communicate that to my ex-husband. It just kind of was a thing. So they both sat down, and by the end of the conversation, then it was, okay, so they just kind of have to learn to communicate with each other a little better and explain. If you say, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going through, but I just need some space and time, then at least he knows what you're doing. And you're right, as he's slowing down, as he's thinking, I'm going to buy a sailboat and we're going to go all the way to Aruba and travel the world. And, I'm starting a business and I'm going to make it to $1 million and impact a lot of people. You're right. There is that communication that has to come because you can do both together. but you have to, yeah, have that time, that communication. And we work on that as well, because certainly once you hit menopause and you lose estrogen, then you lose that filter that is there before. And sometimes it is hard because you're running in one direction and he's trying to say, well, what about me? And she's just in that case where she's trying to figure out business and work and taking on the world. And now the kids aren't here, so I don't know what to do with myself, because that's such a huge impact for women. So he feels freedom, she feels strangled. So it's working together to make sure both are on the same page.
And then women who they never had a filter before, it becomes even worse. They'll say whatever. And then women who had a filter, it's surprising and shocking to a lot of people around them because they never said anything, they never spoke up. So, how do you walk women through how to communicate those feelings and emotions, and that everything is changing now with the whole transition after 40? What are your suggestions to women to be able to start to communicate that to others that are around them that aren't used to it, or now it's even more unfiltered ideas that they're sharing with their family?
It does get a little crazy because as you are losing your filter and you may say, well, I just want to go do this, it's also how you say it sometimes and how you communicate. So that kind of gets lost in translation. But it's also sitting down and figuring out, how to communicate that and to sit with them to do it, because things can go sideways very quickly. And then they also internalize it. Oh my gosh, I'm ticking everybody off. Everybody's mad at me. I don't know what to say. And maybe I shouldn't do this or I shouldn't do that, because then they second guess themselves. Oh, I'm unworthy. Nobody wants me to do it. So a lot of emotions are happening in here. And part of the audit, we do, the emotional and mental energy part of it to say what's holding on to you, what isn't, how do you respond or react to things. We need to look at your behaviors and how you do that. So we do a bit of psychology work in there just to say, you're changing, and I know you don't understand how you're changing, but are you, spouting quickly? If he says something and you catch off guard because you're not paying attention, do you snap at him? Right? Do you snap at your kids? Do you snap at your dog? Right? How is that playing out in your life? Because with all the changes, there is a lot that's going on. And we talk everything from how that is also impacted by food, it's impacted by exercise, by sleep. As a bonus section and part of the audit, we do go over that because there's an energy leak inventory. So it's something that they can look at to say, oh, okay, this is what's happening, and then bring it to a call and say, okay, I keep doing this and I'm not sure why. And then we can sort of analyze why it is you're doing that. And sometimes it's just a fear response that comes up because they have thought of something that they didn't want to do, and then he'll say something and she'll just snap. And then he's like, well, wait a minute. I just wanted to do this with my wife and now she's not listening. She doesn't want to do it. She's all upset. Well, something inside of her then said, no, I don't want to do that. But she snapped at him in the process. So a lot of it is communication.
Effectively. Okay. I remember many, many years ago, because I used to run a health and wellness retreat and conference center, put on hundreds of retreats, conferences, summits, and in-person workshops and events. And I remember one man in particular who came, and he was leading some workshops at an event that we had there, and he had come into the wellness center, and he said to me, if he had known what it's supposed to be like as his wife was going through this change after 40, he would never have divorced her. He now was with a woman who he initially was younger, and now she was going through the same thing. So it was a whole, deja vu going over it again. And he was like, well, I would have preferred to have stayed with my first wife, my, first love, if I had known that this was just, a regular part of this phase of life. And so I think that having this awareness for not just the woman, but the spouse and everyone around them, the children, everyone in their lives, and then in their work environment, and also with regards to their business and building their business, that people understand that, I think would be really powerful and effective. So how does that relate with what you do to be able to communicate that to everyone that's in their life in an effective way.
I do work on that confident power that you have within you, because you're right. Like when you say when you're going through menopause, and I love that one. You're not broken, you're becoming, because you can claim who you are and who you want to be. So we do identity work to say, okay, so if you want to own your own business and get to 1 million, travel the world, who does that person to you have to look like? How do they walk? How do they talk? How do they dress? Who are they associated with? Yeah, like where do you want to travel to? If you're there, where do you want to stay? Like I want them to envision what this person looks like, feels like, and then say, okay, so how do you want to get there? Do you want to get there over the next 10 years? Do you want to get there over 3 years and then grow the business? What does that look like as well? Because that will, dictate what you do with your spouse, how you tell everybody you're doing it. And if you're going to be the CEO and now a business owner, are you going to do both? So there's all those questions, because sometimes they say, well, I can't do this because I don't have any time. Well, if time wasn't the issue, would you still do it? Because we can find you time, right? Because you're probably over functioning. So if we take away certain things, then we can, fill that in for something you actually want to achieve. So that's always a big thing as well. And it's funny you say that, and I love that example because it happened to me. Because my ex married a younger woman and they're already separated. So it's one of those things that, yeah, you don't know what you're going through. Things happen. And, when you go for that younger woman, you're still going to go through the same thing eventually. So teaching men and getting them a little more educated, because I do have a lot of men who follow me on Facebook. And if I don't do my live on a Monday, they're messaging me going, oh my gosh, are you okay? You didn't do your live. You didn't do your card pull. What is it like? So it is really educating. You're right. Both sides on how you can go through menopause with grace and ease, both of you together, and still come out at the other end with you working your business on a sales boat in Aruba. So,
Wow, that sounds
right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I've even heard of certain areas in the world where women have no symptoms whatsoever, places like in Asia where they actually value older women. They look at them as matriarchs, they honor them, they revere them. And then there's places, such as the UK or different areas in Europe where they actually look down on women aging, and so they have to try to hide it and pretend like they're not aging, do everything they can to keep their career going. And they go through a lot more symptoms in general than those areas where they're actually, embraced and encouraged and celebrated to become an older woman that is, established in society. Have you noticed those types of patterns as well, in like maybe not necessarily huge regions, but in maybe micro communities as well, where it's celebrated and talked about, and it's not something that is to be ashamed of or to be a secret? Have you seen a difference in symptoms or ways of being with the women in those areas?
And I'm glad you brought that up, because when I had my hips replaced in 2018 and 2020, I went back to university. And part of getting my second degree was doing sociology. And I asked her, I said, could I look at the blue zones as it is relating to women in peri and postmenopause and getting quick onset dementia? So she's like, oh, we never heard anyone do that before. So I said, well, I'm in the thick of it. So I did a lot of research on that, and all the blue zones, you're right. One of the biggest things is community. And then it is movement, it is food, it is really having that group of women. And a lot of them were, the whole family. So you got age 12 up to 100, and they're getting together once a week, and they're playing instruments, and they're singing, and they're dancing, and they're having great healthy food together. And then you come over to like North America, or like you say, parts of Europe, and as we age, it's just ageism, right? And I find too, for myself, it's the hair. I had my fourth concussion and could not dye my hair anymore. And, everything went very gray, and I had to, cut it off because I was blonde. And, you look at other women who are in their 80s and 90s and 100, and they're still dyeing their hair because you're right, they don't want to look their age. They're going in for Botox. They're doing a whole bunch of things because their appearance is something that is so vital to who they think they are and what it is they have to accomplish. And sometimes I have women too. I have three that are in their late 50s, 60s. Like me, they were a CEO, but they cannot get another job. They don't even get the interview. They don't get the ability to bring what they know forward and that knowledge. So there isn't that, hey, we're going to take care of the older women in our group and they have wisdom to share and we want to learn from them. It's just like, okay, hide them away. We're going to let them just decline. And then we're just going to put them in a home. So it's odd that when I tell people that right now I live with my mother until we can get her into a home, and I've been here for 17 months, to make sure she has that dignity because she has raised 4 kids and 5 grandkids. So they have to work on what's happening there and really understand that we come with a lot of knowledge and a lot of resources, and we can contribute even more now than before. But certainly up here in Canada and the US, UK, Europe, it's really looked almost down upon sometimes to do that. So it's helping them boost their confidence and be able to stand firm in what it is they want and how they want to do it. So that's a big part of it too.
So kind of reinventing in a way how they view themselves, because now they're totally becoming a different person on the outside and on the inside, even with their chemical and makeup and everything that's going on with everything after age 40. So then being comfortable with that, choosing to love themselves again and being able to step into it and embrace it fully, and get to know themselves again, I think is kind of what I'm hearing from what you do with them, so that they can continue to become successful with their business or whatever direction they decide to go in. Is there something that they can do with regards to comparing themselves to other women maybe that are younger? They're starting to see that there's those changes happening, like you said, even with your hair, and not being able to maybe look the same that they did 10, 20 years ago, or even like now with AI cloning, not even look like their AI clone, things like that. So
True.
what do you recommend for women who are wanting to pursue, the business realm and continue building up their business, or be a CEO or some kind of C-suite leader in a corporation, and continue to have that effectiveness with their confidence, with everything that's happening in their life at this time?
Well, sometimes women will step back and they'll give their resume or say, yes, I would like to, have this position, and then wait for things to happen, because that used to be what we'd have to do before. Like, you couldn't talk to anybody, you couldn't go ask any questions. But now it's almost like at this age, you have to run in and you got to say hello and you got to find out who's doing what and almost stick your nose into the process for them to say, oh, I should consider you, and give them a reason why. And it's a little more homework than we've had to do before, because your track record, your resume, your references should be enough. But now it's different, and it's you taking more charge of what it is you want. But the minute I had a client go, oh my gosh, I totally get what you said, because the minute it clicked and I said, no, I want that, I had this confidence and this knowing, and it's like all the doubt fell away, all of the insecurities fell away. I was ready to go in. I wanted this position. I had a write-up of what it is I could do for this organization. I went and met with the interim CEO, and they loved me, and I got an interview the next day. So it's almost stepping on some toes, getting through the front door and pushing your way up to the front now that you're a little older. That, is something we have to do to do that. And in business, it's letting go of the naysayers and, the family that says, oh, are you retiring in 3 years? You're going to be 65. Maybe not, right? 65 is just that somehow magic age where the government says you need to retire, and then we'll pay you a little bit of money and then you can go live your life. Where it's, I feel like at 62, I have a whole lot of life left to give and a lot of wisdom to share and a lot of knowledge to share. And I've been teaching and training my whole life. So now I want to bring it forward to say, okay, women, you can do whatever it is you want and let's have fun with it. This can be the stage of your life now that, your kids will always need you. That just happens. But they have their life, you have your life. Let's make it fun. Let's make it adventurous. Let's make it the best part of your life now going forward. It doesn't have to be decline, as they say. You don't have to have Alzheimer's, dementia, and all of that. There's protocols to follow. There's a whole life out there for you to grasp onto and just absolutely love, and have the confidence to say when someone says, oh, do you think you should do that? You're taking on too many clients. It's your business.
Yeah.
And you sit back and you say, no, I've been doing really well. I love what I'm doing, and have that explanation for people. Or in some cases, I said, thank you for the feedback, and I walk away. And it's that simple.
Okay. Okay, that's awesome. So that's a really good thing to have, is to think about some things that you can say to mitigate, any kind of confrontation. I really like that. Oftentimes, there's another phrase that I like to say if people ask questions that are a little bit intrusive or invasive, is why do you ask? So then it puts it back on them as to trying to explain their true intentions, and they start to backpedal because that it wasn't a truly heart centered type of question that really cares about you as an individual. So with regards to the children starting to grow up, and maybe they're leaving home, or maybe they're not, maybe they're staying around, or they're a boomerang child that comes back again, and having those responsibilities, and now the woman in her 40s and 50s and beyond are starting to think about wanting to do some things for herself, with regards to a business or anything else that she always wanted to do. How do you walk those women through letting go of all those extra responsibilities that they always had? Because you said in order to add to your life, you need to let go of some things. How do they let go of the control in those areas, if they've had control in a lot of those aspects to their life, but now they're wanting to venture off and do some new adventures, and now they're having to realize they got to let go a lot of things, like a lot of their possessions that they've accumulated throughout their life, a lot of the things that they've had to do to protect and provide for their children and family, and now they're wanting to step into something new. Like, what are your steps to walk a woman through that so she can really excel in that new business she's creating, or that corporate position that she's wanting to obtain?
First and foremost, and it's a great question, because when we look at that wheel and we celebrate them, I celebrate them for what they've done, how far they've come, what you have accumulated, all of that stuff. And I say, this is great, but the person you are now has gotten you this far. The person you're going to become now for the last half of your life is going to be a different person. It's not a bad thing. It's a very good thing. You are now choosing differently. And if you look at 2 or 3 things that they want to do, say, okay, what's going to get you to your end goal? Because we talk about that. Then what are the 2 or 3 things that you have to do right now? And it's because women tend, if they take something off the wheel, they're going to put something in it. So I want to work on them to put something in it that is wonderful and is going to move them forward before they, go on another board or stick something else in there that isn't conducive to getting them forward. So sometimes it's self-care too. If you don't do a lot of self-care, then I want you to take some stuff off of that wheel, and that has to go in there first and foremost for your health, for your mind, for everything that you need to go forward, your emotions. You need that self-care time, but it's looking for something first. So when we take it out, then the good stuff fills it. And then as the good stuff needs more time and energy, then we start taking a few more things off the spoke. And helping them get through the fact that they have an empty nest. It's like, okay, this is wonderful. Look at you. If they could fly, they're out there working, they're, getting married, they're traveling the world. You've done an amazing job as a parent. You have to let them go and be an adult. You know that as a parent, they will always come back and ask for things, from money to advice to, can I stay over on a Saturday? Hey, we're coming for a meal. You will never lose that connection unless you want to lose that connection. So that's a choice you make. So we work on having those specific connections to people, including your kids, including your siblings, and especially your husband or partner, and how that is to work looking forward. And with the children, yes, they're gone, you've done your job. And we celebrate that, and we celebrate them for everything that they've done. And then say, okay, this is your next phase of your life. So how do you want to design it? And sometimes they're choosing, all the kids come over on Sunday and we have a big dinner Sunday night because they all still live in town. If they don't live in town, I said, then schedule a Zoom call. So you still have that connection with people, but you're not the one that everybody has to go through all the time for absolutely everything. And we talk boundaries. So you're going to set that boundary to say, mom's working now. These are my working hours. Let's chat every Friday night. You can get me caught up and see what it is you need. So it's designing that. And we do in phase 3, design what it is you want that entire life now to look like in your perfect world. Nobody else's perfect world, just yours.
So delegating those aspects that you used to do for the family to those that are competent in the family to do that. So if it's, organizing family events, or like you said, meals or outings or get-togethers, not just it all being on you, because you had always done that as they were, growing up and building and raising a family, because now you're on to things that are serving that purpose beyond what you had done through those few decades, and now into your 40s and 50s and beyond, you're wanting to do things that are going to create a long-lasting legacy, for your business, for yourself, for your family as well, but in a different capacity. So just embracing and accepting the change that happens, because I think a lot of times people think things will stay forever. Like when the children are really little, you think that phase is just going to last forever when you're right in the midst of it, and then all of a sudden they're grown up and they're wanting to leave home, or go to other places, other countries even, and then all of a sudden it's like, I thought this phase when they were younger was going to last forever, and all the busyness that we experienced while raising them was going to continue on. And so just accepting that change, and then realizing that there's certain things you can do to delegate a lot of those aspects of what you did as they were growing up to those that are in your family or in your community, so you can focus on your business and that sort of thing, to be able to do those activities that you're wanting to do for yourself, to be able to create that life like you said. So when women are going through this and they're wanting to, let's say, become a leader in a community, they want to be a leader in maybe a business network or a corporation or in their own business, how can they start to shift their identity to, be able to be an industry leader? Because I've had clients who they have spent hundreds of thousands in the past to try to get their business moving forward. I get them to start enrolling premium clients, and then all of a sudden, their last child leaves home, their youngest leaves home, and then they have a little bit of an identity crisis, because they were so ingrained in that was their identity. So how can they go, how can I be a business leader or someone who's running, these businesses, enrolling premium clients, and they used to always just think of themselves as a mom and that was it, and now they're this business leader. So how do you get them to step into that position, that identity, that role, to be taken seriously, to be, thought of as someone that has something very significant to offer? So how do you get that woman to make that impact and know exactly how to get there?
That is a great one because I know even for me, my entire identity when I had two gyms and I was running around thinking of making it into a franchise, I still was identifying mainly as a wife and mother. So when I wanted that energy to go into the gyms to make it a franchise, it never happened because something always came up because I was doing things that kept me small and kept me using the gyms as a job, not as my empire, right? Which is a very different thought pattern. And for a lot of women, you're right, we're in the same phase because it is a very important job to raise our kids or to be the wife and take care of the home. And if that always comes first in that mindset, even when you're in business or at your business, working in your business, it is going to have an impact because in behind your head, you're always thinking, I should have done this or I should have done that, or maybe they need me for something. And then you call and say, did you need anything? I was just making sure everything was okay. And then you're right, there is that shift, but it is finding the confidence and the part of self-esteem that you're worthy enough to stand there as that authority because you have a lot to offer. And one lady, I had her, I said, do you have a resume? She said, yes. I said, take it out. So she took it out and I said, read me your resume, right from where it started up to present. And she did that. I said, oh, okay. So tell me about your schooling. She did that. I said, I'm volunteering. She did that. I said, okay, so what makes you think that you can't run a business in doing accounting if you literally are an accountant, you got your MBA, you've been doing this forever, you've had clients for years, but your life is changing because your kids are growing up, why is that such a shift? And I said, I want you to read that resume every day. And she did it for a week and came back and said, oh my gosh, it made such a difference because I never looked at myself before as an authority on a subject or in anything. And I said, well, it only takes 10 years to be that authority. And literally, you've done it for almost 30 years. So you know more than I will ever know about accounting. And I'm okay with that. But you have that knowledge, but sometimes they don't see it, they don't understand it, and they don't believe it because they have such a strong belief that they're, the mom and they are the wife and they are something other than strong enough, smart enough, and confident enough to achieve their goals. And it's getting them to dig underneath and find why they feel that way. And then it's like, okay, I want you now to go tell your sons, tell your daughters, tell your husband what it is you've learned about yourself today. And then I want you to go tell your best friend. And then I want you to tell a colleague at work and ask them if they've done that. And that was very powerful because we went and actually talked to her executive assistant and said, explain to me your resume. Like she went through the whole exercise and then she's like, wow, she knew that she knew so much more and she'd love to be promoted, but she never wanted to ask for it. So, over time, she is now getting the potential out of her staff more because she understands the value of what everyone has done and what she's done to get to where she is. And she is going gangbusters, and I'm so excited for her.
What an amazing exercise. So it reminds me of some, mindset work that I do with my clients where I get them to look at their business plan every day and to visualize it. Just a quick overview, not like a huge detailed one, but just their main goals of what they want to have with their business. But I never thought of that idea of look at your resume, look at what you've done, what you've accomplished, what your gifts are, and what your talents are and what your education is, and to look at that every day. That's really powerful. I think that would go really well with looking at their overall plan. And then another mindset thing I get my clients to do is what's called a brag book. So you're bragging about yourself to yourself in a journal. And so that's similar to what you got your client to do, to go and just check in and see what other people have done, and have they done what they've done, and no, they haven't. So it makes them uniquely them, and to build up their confidence and boost who they are in that leadership role and position, which I think is really amazing and powerful. But also honoring other people that maybe if they haven't done those things, they're an expert in other areas, and that's why they're on the team, because everyone has their expertise. But to realize that they're a unique human being, and that they have human intelligence, emotional intelligence, a whole bunch of different types of intelligence, not just IQ, but a lot of other types
Absolutely.
of intelligence. So how do you build women up even further beyond that? Is that something that does it, as long as it's every day, it's ingrained into them that they are unique, that there's powerful gifts that they have that nobody else has? Or is there anything else that you add to that to get them to become that leader that they're meant to be?
Well, I love the sense of community that I learned from the Blue Zones. So I am building a stronger group community to say, ladies, you can stay here with us. We can still do some training, but we're going to celebrate you every month. And if you don't want to stay here, then go, find your church community, get all your girlfriends together, but really lift each other up. Don't just get dressed up and go for dinner and chit chat about, politics that you don't like or what's happening in the world. Really look at what each other's done and what you've accomplished. So we give them a list of things to ask them. And that gets really fun because we'll do a Zoom once a month, and I'll just say, okay, show up however you want to show up, whether you're in your pajamas, whether you're just be dressed, but show up. And we're going to celebrate you. And I want you to tell me 3 things we did this month that you're super proud of yourself for. And I want you to tell me 3 things you learned and 3 people you've lifted up. So they have to actually go through this every month. And some people in the first month went, oh my gosh, I think I've done something. And that's where I love your brag book. Because once you started telling me to do that, because I was just so busy doing so much, I never sat down and went, okay, this is great. I know my big things, but there was a lot of little things that contributed to it. And I tell them that too. Write it down. Write down exactly what it is that you like every day. Journal a little something, and it doesn't have to be huge. But I want you to, once a month, be able to tell me those 9 things, and we're going to share it with the group. We're going to celebrate you in the group, and we're going to have fun with that. One day they wanted a dance party. We had a dance party. One other day we watched a movie, and the another day we had watched a video off YouTube. So it's just a day where we're just celebrating who they are and what they're doing in the community, because when you do that, then it solidifies more of the confidence, the self-esteem, and where you're going. And it says, okay, I'm actually doing what I love, and I'm feeling good, because you get to this stage and you want to feel good. You want to feel joy. Don't want to just have hustle and grind. You want to drop all of that and figure out how to do this life with ease and grace. And yes, you still have to work, but if you're having fun doing it, then it's not work per se. It is something that is from your heart. It is from your calling, and you're just not kowtowing to what society says you have to do. You're going to have fun with it, enjoy with it, and that's part of that community aspect. That's so huge, especially in the Blue Zones.
Yes, I love the Blue Zones and how they looked at all the different aspects that make something in that community conducive to long, healthy lives. And they talked about, they bike a lot. So that's something I love to do, is e-biking, and different types of activities, and I guess the food that they eat, and the environment that they're in. Like you said, with the community, they have a lot of shops where you can just walk down a street that they close off, and you walk and enjoy, the street markets or the stores. And there's a lot of aspects to the Blue Zone that makes life enjoyable and fun and exciting. How have you incorporated those types of community aspects into what you do with your leadership recode, and then in your own life and in the lives of those that you're serving? Is there anything in particular that you recommend them to do to be able to have that type of environment, even if they don't live in a Blue Zone, to create their own micro Blue Zone? Oh, I think her Wi-Fi is low. So I appreciate everyone tuning in today to the Business Freedom and Legacy Summit 2026. What I do is I come up with an idea to, make you stand out in your gift and calling and treasures and talents so that you're able to live your purpose fully through your business. If you are leaving corporate, those are some of my favorite clients to work with, because oftentimes people that are leaving corporate, they know what it takes to succeed inside a corporate environment. But once they start making their own business, it's really difficult because they don't know those exact steps. So I've had a lot of clients say, I was such a great leader. So many people loved me. They said, if you ever leave this corporation, we're going to follow you to the next corporation. So then they thought, well, if everyone loves me so much, why don't I just start my own business? And then when they started their own business, they reached out to their entire network, and they were able to, go through their whole Rolodex, so to speak, and engage with everyone, but nobody would enroll with them. And so they were kind of wondering about that, because everyone had said they would follow them no matter what. And then when they enrolled with me, I showed them how to do the enrollment consultation process, and they'd go, I'm so surprised, how did this happen? It feels like we just got started. I just enrolled $6,000-$7,000 clients all of a sudden, and in the first couple of weeks of starting with you, and I've got more appointments lined up, and I know that I'm going to enroll all of those people as well. How did this happen? And I'll say, well, I showed you how to do the enrollment consultation, where my clients say they become unstoppable enrolling machines or master enrollers. But then what happened was, just stepping into my ecosystem, I have a lot of clients that have abundance start flowing to them. So one of my clients, who was living in a colder part of the nation, she was in a corporate-like environment, working at a university. She said she hated it. It was like being stuck between four walls of an institution, corporate-like environment, and she just wanted to be free to travel to tropical places and maybe even live in a tropical place. She was one of the first clients that really opened my eyes to how my clients just stepping into my ecosystem have a lot of abundance flowing to them. So I showed her how to enroll clients, even after she previously to starting with me, she had spent hundreds of thousands, obviously on her traditional education, on getting all her coaching designations, and onto building her business. She actually took one really well-known coaches programs and got everything from them, even the $100,000 plus packages. And then from there, she said she was only able to enroll only 5 women in their 30s, and they were just paying her just approximately $30 per month for a membership. And then after starting with me, she goes, I'm so surprised. How did this happen? I've got clients of all ages enrolling with me, young adults all the way into their 70s, 80s, and one who just turned 90, paying me several $1,000s each and above and beyond. How did this happen? And I said, well, that's what I do with my clients. I create that intellectual proprietary marketing idea to make you stand out and set apart, so premium clients want to enroll with you quickly. So even if there's hundreds of thousands of people that are doing something similar, once they hear about you, they're going to want to enroll with you. So then she was able to go down to tropical places like she had said that she wanted to go to. She took photos on the beach. And when I see those photos online, I just smile, because she's such a good person before she became wealthy, and she's still a good person after. And she said to me, Jen, you've helped me become a master enroller, an unstoppable enrolling machine. Okay, so Allison's back. I'm going to bring her back up on stage. So go to businesscoachingamerica.com/summit to register today, and get your VIP upgrade access as well, because we have free gift offers from all of the speakers, including myself, and additional VIP free gift offers in the speaker bundle packet that Allison will also have some of those free gift offers for you as well. So welcome back, Allison. I know there was a little bit of a Wi-Fi signal issue happening there. So if you want to continue on where you had left off, that would be great.
Sorry. Yeah, we had a power outage. Of course, raining out, so gotta go with the flow. But it is teaching women that they need to, they can build the confidence and they can get it back. Because someone think, well, I can't do that anymore, I'm old. It's like, stop thinking of an age, stop thinking that you're old. It's a different mindset. And even though the world says, oh my gosh, you should be retiring, I said, that's great. I've retired about 6 times from different jobs and having different businesses. So this is awesome. What do you want to do next? And they look at me kind of strange and go, oh, like, you haven't been doing like this your whole life. I'm like, I've been an entrepreneur. I've been a CEO. I've had different positions with different companies. I've been able to travel the world. I said, I've been very fortunate. I said, but I also stopped everything when I had my hips replaced and redesigned what my life would be like after that, and had much more fun with it. So I said, now you get to choose. You can choose anything and everything you want. So what is it? And a lot of times the women just don't know what they want because they've done all these things, like you said, have just fallen into place. But now they get to sit down and go, do I want to? Do I not want to? Do I still want to do it? And I make them scale it on on 1 to 10. How important is that to you now? Right? That your kids are gone, you and your husband can have more fun together. You need to actually make time for that.
Okay, sounds good. So then, when women are starting to step into the changes that are happening after, the children are leaving home, and they're stepping into that new those new ideas that they want to see happen, what are the main things that you see take place? What are the main issues, challenges, ideas that they come up with, and how can they make their life like a legacy? Because this Business Freedom and Legacy Summit has the word legacy in it. So how can they make that lasting difference? I guess it would be looking at from the sage perspective, right? Looking at themselves when they're in their 80s, 90s, and beyond, and looking backward and seeing what they really truly want to accomplish during those years. Is that part of what you do as well?
It is, because, one of the questions for one of the ladies, she said she wanted this big, huge organization. She was just getting started, and she was making some very strange decisions, I would say, about, moving forward. But it always kind of moved her backwards, because then she was, well, I don't want too much money. And then I was going to charge this. But then by the time we got on the phone call, I gave it to them for free. And it's like, well, yeah, I really have to look at the belief system. And I said, okay, look at yourself 20 years from now. And she's looking back at you. What would she tell you? And she went, oh, like she was almost cowarding, right? I don't want her to see me, kind of thing. And I said, that's what I want you to think about, that your future self will look back and say, honey, you should have done this. Or, why didn't you just take the time to, do a little live for somebody, right? It's, how do you use your time? How do you do that? So we do a lot of, back futurescaping, I call it, because I do want you to, have that conversation with your future self. If you're telling me by the time you're 70, you want to have X number of dollars in the bank, how many clients you want to impact, you want to be speaking on stages, in Canada, US, Europe, Dubai, who is that person? That's a different identity than one sitting right here. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to go backwards and give somebody something for free, you're not going to pay your bills, right? So, and you've been in business. So if you've been in business in any way, shape, or form, if they've come into your store in retail or into your business when you're, consulting, do you offer somebody something for free right off the bat? That is normally, they have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those, just making sure that they are aligned with who that identity has to be. So that's locked in a lot of identity work to get them to where they can see their future self and feel that future self and what they would and would not do. So that tends to get them to stop and really look at what it is they're doing and the choices they make. And then it's also saying, okay, I want you to look for different mentors, right? Look for you, look for someone else on YouTube, look for somebody who's doing what you want to do, and listen to them. How are they saying things? How are they presenting themselves? Are they even down to, are they doing short form, long form videos, and where, right? Mm-hmm. So it's that awareness piece I got too. And I got from, conversations with you, which has been really helpful. So it's like, oh my gosh, yes, you're right. I want to tweak that. I want to get it moving forward. And my future self would say, oh my gosh, get off your butt. Come on, you know how to do this. You don't need to hide in the shadows. You're worth more than that. Yeah. So sometimes it's just remembering that affirmations can just keep you in the mood and moving forward, at least from that perspective, which I really love.
Yeah. And I think that we can have really high goals and really high dreams and visions that we can head toward, and then at the same time reevaluate those, because maybe that's not truly what you want, and what are the things that would be involved to get to that level. So I'll give you an example. I had this vision many years ago where I saw myself looking over this ocean front, and there was a light breeze, warm breeze, and I knew this was my property, and behind me was the house, and there was like a little house behind that, and then a garden over to the right side. And I remember having a briefcase in one hand, and I just flown back from a conference like you're talking about. I'm looking over the ocean and I'm thinking to myself, I wish I could spend more time here, because I'm so busy going to all these business conferences and speaking events. And then I look over to the gardener who's in the garden, just kind of, just kind of really just very gently puttering around, very relaxed, enjoying the sunshine, the brim of the hat kind of covering their face. And they're just kind of kneeling down, doing a little bit of gardening, very light gardening. And I was thinking, wow, I would rather be doing that right now than flying all over and speaking at all these conferences. So one thought I had recently was, do I really want to have that vision I saw? Or is there a different vision, or something maybe, you know, halfway between the gardener versus the one flying all over the place? So yeah, so what are your thoughts with regards to that, when you have certain high goals and high ideas of what you want to accomplish in life, but also taking into consideration what is it going to take to get there, and are you willing to do those things to get there? Do you talk to women about those both sides of what they truly want and what they think they truly want?
Yes, that's a big part of it, because sometimes, when people say, "Oh, do you want to make $10 million?" I don't know what $10 million feels like to make. So let's start with $1 million. Well, okay, in my lifetime, I've done that over about a 6-year period. So let's see if we can make it over a 3-year period, right? So it's looking at what you've done and how you've done it. And, we all look at different houses and whether you want to live in the mountains or at the beach or whatever, and we dream. But it's like, okay, can I work from this space? And where do I want it to be? And do you still want that? Like you say, you've seen it, you've envisioned it. Well, is there a pull there for you? Is it in your heart and soul? Like, if you lived there and you worked there, would you still be able to get out and garden? Would you still be able to, have those days where you can put on your hat and putter around and have fun and go for a walk in the bush with the dog and, sit on the beach? If you're willing to do that, then try it, right? And I'll tell people, go rent an Airbnb for a week or two, go sit in it, go love that lifestyle, but understand you're leaving a lot behind. Are you willing to give a lot of that up? Right? Depending on where you go. Because some people want, they want to go to Costa Rica or Panama or whatever. And I said, that's great if you can have, a timeshare where you're down there for a week a month, or, for all the winter months. Think about how it is you want to transition yourself maybe to that spot. Because if you are traveling a lot, if you are doing a lot and you still love to do that, and it is in your heart and soul, well, then maybe that's where you need to go to take some time for self-care, still maybe do some client calls, write that book you wanted to write, right? Just have some downtime. Then yeah, take that time, because you can find it anywhere in the world. So go somewhere that you want to go, you want to check out, and have that type of environment, so you know how it feels, you know what to do with it, and then make the decision from there on what you want to pursue. Because some people said they wanted to go to Paris, they wanted to, live in an apartment. And I said, well, then go for a vacation. And she came back and went, I don't ever want to live there.
Right.
So I'm like,
yeah, it's different.
right?
From a quick visit versus staying there for a few months. So you're basically saying, try out and live that dream that you have with those, high and lofty visions and amazing ideas you have. Try it out and see if you truly like it. And maybe it's for a season, like you're saying, because
Yes.
change always happens. So it could be for a time that you get to enjoy that, but then maybe you want to do something later that slows down. But keeping that in mind, I guess, with the whole vision that you have, that what if 5 years from now you want to slow down a little bit, will all of this be still sustainable as you start to slow down? And what will that look like as well? So I like that idea of just go try it. See if you like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Because
that's
there's some pull for you somehow to say, this is what I want, but then go find out if it's truly what you want without making the decision to buy this property for, hundreds of thousands of dollars and then find out you can't get Wi-Fi. Starlink may or may not work. Right.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Yes. So there's a
it
lot of
is good.
practical aspects to your
Yes,
dreams and visions and that sort of thing. So I
absolutely.
appreciate you. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience that we didn't get a chance to because of the power outage and the Wi-Fi issues?
The wonderful blip. I can explain the energy audit. It
Mm-hmm.
is your freebie. So you will get this wonderful energy audit. And it goes over everything from physical energy, mental, emotional, spiritual, leadership and alignment, and kingdom alignment. And it asks you 15 questions under each. So it gives you a little score as to know where exactly you're at, if you're really drained or you're just shining star. So it'll give you a little bit of a boost there. And then the bonus section is the energy leak inventory. So there's just things you can tick off, like physical energy. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you exercising? Are you like, it's very particular. And it just gives you a little idea of what's happening in your life. And if you're really honest with it, then you will actually know where all your leaks are before you get to the bonus section. And it'll be a big aha for a lot of people. And if you buy VIP, then not only do you get that, but you'll get a call with me then to go over it, which would be really cool.
That sounds amazing. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so whether someone, because it's called your program is called Faith Anchored Leadership Recode. So
Yes.
whether or not they have a faith or not, or they're spiritual or not, you're able to work with anybody and everyone because of you just kind of let them know that you can do both with faith and if they don't have a faith as well. So if
Absolutely.
somebody is not faith based, there's a lot of I think practicalities of doing that audit as well with you. Is that something that you're comfortable with and familiar with working with people that don't necessarily have that spiritual aspect in their life as well?
I have worked with a lot of people too that, yeah, are different religions, and I respect that for sure. And they tell me ahead of time whether they are or want. And I just tell them if there's anything that makes you uncomfortable, certainly tell me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pray over you, but I can do that in silence, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want me to pray out loud, just ask me. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just make sure that, this is their life and I want them to be secure in how they move forward and what they need to do. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just who I am. So
And how
I
do
will
all
help
of
them with it.
these and all of these things in the audit that you do for their leadership, how does it help them become a better leader? Is there specific, tangible, measurable outcomes that you've noticed with the faith anchored leadership recode that can happen when people are working with you?
I think the biggest one in the beginning is they really understand their internal leadership and how that has to change, how they lead themselves, how they make decisions, how they communicate, and what they really want. And sometimes over the 3 months that we work together, that can change because they're now understanding who they are, what they want, what they don't want, because you're afraid to say, oh, I won't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everyone expects me to do that. So if the expectation is from family, from friends, from your kids, from your husband, that is something I have to do, but I hate to do it,
Mm-hmm.
then it also brings up anger because they'll continue to do it. But it's a big awareness factor to say, okay, if it's bringing up a bad emotion, why is it doing that? If you don't want to do it, then let's teach you how to communicate, how to let that go. So it
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's important. I remember it's kind of the opposite scenario with my husband and I when we first got married 30 years ago now. When we first got married, he was doing a lot of the cooking, the cleaning, doing, everything for the house, and he was going to school full time and working full time. And then he noticed he was doing all of our laundry as well. And so what he did was he just let my laundry just pile up till I had no clothes left like clean clothes left to wear. And I thought, my goodness, what's this pile of laundry doing here? That's just, not getting cleaned. And so I had to do a load of laundry. And so I think sometimes that's a good way to get other people to start to, pick up their part of what they need to be doing by just starting to pull back and maybe even expressing it so things don't pile up like dishes or laundry, but to say that
Yes.
these are my dishes, these are this is my laundry, I'm going to do this, but this is yours now. So start to hand off some of those responsibilities to others so that you can step into your true calling and purpose and destiny in life with your business. So yeah, so I think it's just a funny scenario because mostly women are complaining about that, having to do everything, and I still think they do, especially even as they get into the 40s and 50s and beyond. They're still doing all of that and adding to it with the business and
Yes.
trying to create a legacy and trying to do fulfill their dreams and purposes and goals that they had set out to do before they had children and put it on hold. So it's something that, yeah, it would be good to have that recalibration with you to kind of look at it all, and then as you walk through it, they're able to then change and adjust to see what they truly want. I think that's powerful. Even with what you just mentioned of go for your dream, go for your vision, but do it in such a way where you just try it out for a little bit, see if you really like it. So I loved that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I appreciate you.
Or and at the end, you'll have that soulful living blueprint. And I used to teach this only on the side; it was its own thing. But you'll be able to design all of that. So whether it's your business or your CEO scaling, or your health and wellness, your spirituality, your business, your investments and money, uh, you know, your ability to have self-care, like what does all that look like? And you'll have a complete blueprint to say, okay, for the next 10 years, this is kind of what I'm working toward. And, yes, you can tweak it, of course, but, you have to have a goal in mind. You have to have an end game in mind. And that will be what you will continue with after the 12 weeks.
Wow, that's powerful. That's amazing. I want to book my consultation in with you regarding that because I think it's really powerful, just with even just a little bit that you've shared right now. So really encourage everyone to go to businesscoachingamerica.com/summit and then click on the VIP upgrade access, or you can go to businesscoachingamerica.com/VIP-access. And then when you book in your consultation today with both of us, you'll get all of the speaker gift offers, an entire bundle for the general audience, and then another bundle for the VIP audience. So I really encourage you to get that because it's 50% off while we're on live. And I'm sure your initial consultation is very valuable and more than the cost of the VIP upgrade access. So I encourage everyone to go there and to book today. And I have a business breakthrough plan consultation that you can book on and get a free gift offer and the bundles, and then also a business grant and any other bonuses that are being offered at this time. And we'll get your business moving forward. And with Allison, you'll get your leadership skills moving forward in any capacity, where whether it's in corporate or your own business, she's going to be able to create that 10-year blueprint so that you can see the full perspective from that sage perspective of where you really want to be 10 years and beyond. So I appreciate everyone coming on. And if anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat in any of the social media platforms that you're on right now. And we should be able to see it here in StreamYard. And anything else that you wanted to share with the audience, Allison, regarding what you're offering, or anything else that comes to your mind with regards to, supporting women in business and leadership with the Business Freedom and Legacy Summit. Also, I guess maybe in the perspective of, legacy freedom, and also how that relates in this age of AI with your leadership recode as well.
Yes, it is exciting to have AI, but it's also something that can take over your life. So it's figuring out who it is you want to be. And sometimes I have had people use AI. And I said, just, you've used it for business. They know what it is you want to do in business. And then ask them, say, okay, you have all of this. This is what I love to do. What do I need to do now? And they'll tell you something, and then bring it to a call. And then we talk about what that means, right? Sometimes they use AI because they say, use it just to be creative, use it to start sparking the questions and answers that you need answered, right? Let's use it just to see how it can spark some ideas in you that say, oh, I never thought of that, right? And then what do you think? Right? Yes, it might be exciting right now, but is it something you want to pursue long term? So that is really great. And from a legacy standpoint, even though in a lot of our cultures, like we said earlier, there isn't that great, oh my gosh, you have wisdom, we're going to, love our elders. But you can leave a great legacy. Like if you look at certain people that have passed away, and I was talking to a lady about Louise Hay last night, and she was probably on stage till she was in her 90s, and she loved it. And she was always about calmness, right? She didn't take on the entire world. She didn't have 17,000 things in her wheel. She said, when someone said to her, I killed two birds with one stone, she said, why are you killing two birds? And why do you have to do both at the same time? Right? It's like, calm down, slow down, figure out what you want to do. This legacy that you're leaving now is what people are going to look at and watch, and they'll know, oh my gosh, they went through their parents, they were married, or you're single. And I say a lot about married, but even all my single ladies out there like myself, we're working on ourselves to be the better us, to be able to attract the man we want to attract. So you don't want to just say, okay, I'm going to sit on the couch. Do you want that kind of man? Because if you want it, that's great. You'll attract it. But if you want to leave that legacy, if you want to do it with somebody who loves and honors and cherishes you and supports you in your journey, then yes, you need to understand who you are and how to communicate that and how to move forward in that relationship. And, it is important, because I know actually that, if you're over the age of 40, you want to leave a legacy, you've got a lot of time to do that. And let's just move you forward now for abundance, for love, for joy. So you have that type of life going forward, because you deserve it.
Okay, so you support women over 40 to also look for love as well if they don't have that in their life, and making a plan toward that as well. Okay.
That is a part of it as well. There are so many different pieces and parts to this. As role evaluation, we find your non-negotiables. So whether you're at work, in your house, with your spouse, or looking for someone, what are your non-negotiables that you do not want to have in a person, right? That person you want to spend the rest of your life with. Who is he? What does he look like? Is he tall? Is he short? Is he an athlete? Does he have tattoos? Does he not have tattoos? Right? So it's, just evaluating what you want, because now's the time for you to pick and choose. And then
is it harder for women as they get older to find that, ideal person that they want to be with? And if so, should they maybe lower their standards a little bit, or you don't think they should lower them at all? Just keep them high, and it's better to stay single than to be with the wrong person. Is there something that you've seen with your clients, and how that relates to them being a leader as well? Because sometimes you don't really know someone till after you've married them, and then the true, personality and true characteristics come out at that time. So what would you advise a woman over 40 when she's looking for a partner, a spouse, and she's also wanting to, build and grow her business and create that freedom and legacy for herself for the long haul? What would that look like to you?
Well, definitely I tell them, your business comes first. And I say that because it is your identity that's moving forward. It is a big part of you. Or if you're going up the CEO ladder, let's keep the emotion out of as much of that as we can, just because of culture. But also, be open to love, be open to someone, possibilities coming by. I don't believe in lowering your standards. I believe there is someone out there for everybody. And yeah, I've been single for a long time, but also most of that's by choice. And it's by learning, ask the hard questions when you're on a date, not just how are you? He knows my favorite color and I like pink roses. I want you to ask him, say, okay, what have you done in the last week that you've accomplished that you're really proud of? Right? Have those in-depth conversations from the beginning. So he knows you're looking for depth. You're not looking for just pomp and circumstance. You want someone who is, whatever faith you are they aligned with your faith? So they understand what you're doing. And, I had one couple say, well, we didn't have to align that way. And, through further conversations, it's like, well, yes, but a lot of the stuff that's coming up that you're not connecting with is connected to your faith. So, they parted ways, they stayed the best of friends, and now they have an amazing friendship moving forward, and they both have significant others, and now they get together like to go out for dinners as couples. So it's really understanding that you're okay to ask the hard questions. It's okay for you to wait. It's okay to you to have that. But be of the understanding, say, okay, God, universe, whoever you pray to, this is what I want. And I know he's out there. So who do I need to become to attract the man I want? That's a biggie. So we're going to go through, first who you need to be, because once you're there and you're confident enough and you're not afraid to ask the hard questions and have those in-depth topics. I mean, even about children, right? We both have adult children. How are we going to deal with Christmas and with, Easter and all those different holidays? And I celebrate birthdays like crazy with my kids. Do you do that? Like, have those conversations. So then by the time you were to get married, you know what's in play and what's in place, and you're happy to do that. And they support you in your business or your journey. Because a lot of times what rears its ugly head is jealousy. And it's getting them to say, on either side, to say, you still need to spend time with your spouse. What does that look like? How much fun did you have this week with them? Did you go on date night? Right? It's like that has to be a non-negotiable moving forward.
Yes. Yeah. And to keep that connection going. So that's powerful. I didn't realize you support women over 40 to also look for their love life, if they're looking for that, or how to enhance it if they're already in a marriage or partnership as well. So that's all part of, I guess, that internal leadership. How do you lead yourself? How do you show up for yourself, your partner, your spouse, your husband, your children, your family, your community, and then the corporation or business that you're creating? Is there any testimonials that you can share of how it's helped you get to a certain place, or helped others that you've been supporting with the Leadership Recode?
Well, I had one lady in the US, her name was Nikki, and she was a bigger woman, but she didn't know if she should speak. She didn't know if anyone's going to listen, right? I'm big, I'm fat. Like, she had all these negative emotions about her. And I said, Nikki, what if you just went out there and you thought you were talking to everybody like you? She went, oh, okay. So the next time she went out to speak and she was talking about nutrition, because she's had this journey and that she's been on, and she came back and she was all excited. She said she never thought that she was fat or in this place, because she said when she felt like she was with her own kind of people and everybody else with the same issues, she could just talk about the issues because she was so passionate about it. So it's sometimes sitting down and saying, okay, where are you at now? And why do you feel that you can't have the confidence or the self-esteem to move forward? And it's just tweaking sometimes a little thought pattern that happens with them. And then she was, still having a thriving business since 2016. So she's been doing really well. And others, it's, saving a marriage, because a lot of it's communication. A lot of it is she didn't have to, watch football, and he finally was okay with that. So, because again, he said, well, okay, my wife's happy, my life's happy. As I said, so right, so order out for football and keep your wife happy, and life is good. And they are back on track and communicating better, and that's always a good thing for sure.
That's
And for
wonderful.
me,
I
it was
appreciate that.
huge.
Yeah, when you said like about the body image too, because that's something that women are struggling with at all ages, but most likely even more so as they start to go over 40 and above because of the metabolism changes and that sort of thing. So by you getting that client to show up and imagine everyone else having the same thoughts and issues and same body image type of concerns that they had similar to her, by imagining that and making her feel comfortable that she can show up and just be herself authentically, that was really great. Is there anything else along those lines that you've supported women to, be able to see themselves in a better way and be able to, really fully release their gifts and calling and treasures and talents inside of them to make that major impact, that lasting impact that you had with that one client in particular? Is there anything else that comes to mind?
There's about 4 women I know of that have really taken the Soulful Living blueprint to the next level, because they never, ever, ever looked at everything in their life at the same time. So it's like, well, business was a priority, or my kids are a priority, or, something else stayed in the way. And I said, well, this is your whole life. So if you're doing absolutely everything for everybody else, you don't have time for this Soulful Living Blueprint, do you? And they went, no. I had to really eliminate some stuff that really at the end of the day, they were doing it because it gave them a confidence boost, or it gave them that good feeling and a dopamine hit. It wasn't so much, I have to be on this board because of my knowledge. I need to be on this board because I need to feel important. Right? So it's like, no, you're already important. You have all of this. You've gone through your resume. We're looking at, how you communicate. You've done that really well. Your spouse is happy, right? You're dating again, or you feel the confidence to get out there again. Let's take that Soulful Living Blueprint. And they really, really loved that because it kind of put everything in perspective at the end. And they really had the plan to go forward for the next decade. And it kind of uplifted them. And a lot of them still get together outside of the coaching program and help each other and lift each other up. And they're always invited back to celebrate. So that's always a very powerful thing when I hear that someone actually took it and love it and move it forward. And sometimes it's just that spiritual piece too. If I'm working with someone who is Christ-centered and they say, oh my gosh, I never realized how many times I put Christ in a box and I kind of compartmentalize him. And when I go to work, I'm different, or when I'm driving, I'm angry, or when I'm right. So it's them to take that and say, oh my gosh, okay, I'm a better person now because.
I love that idea of when you said that they're looking at it from that perspective, even when they're driving and they're angry. Because I remember when I first started driving many years ago, and I'd be angry or have a little bit of, like something would irk me. Then I thought, I had this idea. I wonder if anyone's ever prayed for that person. So I started praying for those people instead. And my whole attitude changed when I was driving. It was like no big deal. Nothing bothered me anymore because I felt like I had a purpose now in driving. If someone irked me, then I would be like praying for them to have an amazing life. Right. And so that just changed everything. So I don't get, maybe once in a while, a little bit, a little bit of something irks me, but for the most part, I don't feel that way at all. So I think that, changing your perspective and seeing it from like a bigger, grander perspective, from looking at the end in mind and looking back, like you said, and having that full Soulful Living Blueprint sounds really amazing. And is that part of the consultation process when people book in today with the VIP upgrade access? Do they get the opportunity to do the Soulful Living Blueprint with you as well?
Well, that's phase 3 of the whole program. But when they go through the energy audit, then we do talk about a lot of those different things and where they're draining energy and how it has an impact on, their health and wellness, their business, and all of that, their relationships. So it is pretty key. But, I love that you changed it to prayer, because even those little things, right? Instead of getting angry, now your nervous system is crazy, the rest of the day might be triggered. But if you're calm, you're praying for someone, then it's a feel good feeling. You still get that dopamine hit from a physical perspective, and you're sending someone away with love, and your nervous system is still intact. And that is wonderful.
Wow, I should apply it to every area of my life then. Now that I think of it as we're talking about it, in any situation, that sounds like a good idea. I think everything would change. Your whole perspective, your whole life changes when you start to bless and encourage and love on other people in difficult situations, rather than letting that, stir you up in your emotions. So just as we're talking, I'm like thinking about how many areas in my life I can apply that one principle that I've done for so many years. So anything else that you wanted to go over with regards to the Soulful Living Blueprint itself? And I guess when people book in that consultation with you with the VIP upgrade access, they can go through that as well to go in depth into what is offered with regards to that. But anything that you can think of that most people wouldn't be aware of when you're creating that blueprint?
There is an awful lot in the 3 phases, and I used to do it over a year, and people said it was too long. So I do it over 3 months, and you're sent different audits, you're sent different things every week. And we also do a coaching call every week and a celebration call. And it's a time where you can come together to the community to learn more about you, more about other people, and have that community that really supports you moving forward. There's a lot that we go over in this all the time, because I want to really find out who you are and where you're going. Because in phase 2, when we start to rebuild and we look and we reconstruct your identity and authority, then I need you to speak without apologetic, right? We apologize for everything. Canadians say sorry for absolutely everything on the planet. And it's like, you need to stop saying sorry unless you're really sorry for something that you purposefully did. So it's changing that type of stuff. We look at boundary architecture, authority activation, and whether it's professional or personal, relational boundaries, what does that look like? And the outcome is you stand differently, you feel differently. You now can see, where you're going and how you have to be to get there. And, that's very powerful when people have never had to look at that before. When I was in corporate, I just went up the corporate ladder. This came into place, that came into place. Oh, we heard about you over here. Can you come over here? It's like, and it was great. And I had some awesome opportunities, but it didn't mean that I chose them. So now in the last half of your life, you can choose what it is you want to do. So when we redesign, your structural life recalibration comes into play, and you can figure out whatever that is, your role renegotiations, your, boundaries, adult children, the marriage power that you have together as that couple. What does that look like? And it's very important for you to know that, right? And it's big at removing those depletion patterns, right? So we go back to the scopes that you worked at the beginning. What have you given up? What have you haven't? And then the authority embodiment of who you are is really helpful, because I want you to leave with not just a strategic plan, but the insight that you know who you are now, the purpose that you have drawn in, who you've told that to, how to set the boundaries, the delegation, and really be that person that, for my wording, is your God-given destiny. So everyone is on this planet for a reason. What is yours? What's in your heart and soul? What is it you really desire to do? And let's craft that so that's something you can do, because you will have such a bigger impact in the world if you're doing something you absolutely love. And I absolutely love doing this. So this is something I definitely want to bring it.
I love how you position women in their expertise and authority, because that's something I always talk about, because people are always talking about the know, love, and trust factor, but that's not necessarily everything. They need to know that you're the expert and authority in your industry and in your niche, and then they'll want to enroll with you. So I'll give an example. If someone's pregnant and then someone, their general practitioner says to them, would you like the top obstetrician in the city to do the delivery, or would you like the second best in the city? But this is the caveat. The top is not going to speak to you. He's not going to have any kind of, really good bedside manner. So you're not going to necessarily know and love him because he's not going to engage that way. But the second best, he's going to engage. He has great bedside manner. He's going to talk to you a lot. He's going to explain everything to you. Which one do you want? Well, when given that scenario, most people, I think, would say they want number one, because they want to have a safe delivery, right? So they know that he's the expert in authority. He's the best at what he does. And so then sometimes when you don't have that expectation from someone, they start to open up and have an engaging conversation with you. So I like to use that analogy, because positioning yourself as the expert in authority gets you to where you want to go faster, because people are willing to work with you as and engage with you as your client, and then you can build your business. And I love that aspect, that you're really engaging women to step up into their leadership, to be that expert, that authority, but they also have the community, so they have the relationship aspect of things going on, so that they don't feel isolated and alone as they're building their business or climbing that corporate ladder. Because then, especially with everything going on with all of us being online and on Zoom, it can be quite isolating. So having that community is important. So I think what you do really complements with what I do. You're getting to the heart and true nature of who people are, and looking at that full, like you said, soulful living blueprint, getting them to elevate their confidence, their authority, their expertise, I'm positioning that in the marketplace and in the community. And then with what I do, I get them out there, being able to enroll those premium clients as quickly as possible, with having everything done one-to-one, done with you, done for you, having all the business systems in place to get that message out there. So both is really important, to know who you are and then to have that platform to be able to enroll those clients. And so I really encourage everyone who's watching to book in with both of us, because you're going to have, you know, those
Yes.
perspectives that is going to make you really successful, because it's an internal game. A lot of what goes on with business, you need to have grit, fortitude, you need to have, you know, flexibility, resilience, being able to take rejection, be able to take no, because you know that those no's are going to get you to the yes. Position yourself as the expert and authority in your industry, and then also have the business systems in place, and you know, have that online digital presence to be able to, you know, exude and release those gifts that are inside of you. I actually had one woman who, she had a high level of expertise in the medical field as a nurse in Georgia, but she had no tech stuff happening whatsoever, not even Zoom. And so when she was
Oh,
phoning in, I was like, can you come on camera? No, I don't have Zoom downloaded. And I'm thinking, in this day and age, no Zoom downloaded after everything that, you know, we've been going through in the last few years. And so I said, can you download Zoom by tomorrow morning, and a way to take payment, like a payment processing app, at least onto your phone? Still no Zoom. So I figure she doesn't want to go on camera. She only wants to consult from the phone and never step foot into a hospital or clinic again since the lockdowns happened. And she got the payment processing app downloaded because she wanted to get paid. And by that afternoon, even with our 3 hour time difference, I walked her through how to enroll three $5,000 clients paid in full with just her phone and app on her phone. And when she was texting me back and forth, I started realizing her skill level is so high, even though I've built health and wellness clinics and centers and a health and wellness retreat and conference center. Everything was more in the natural realm than the traditional realm. Hers was in the traditional realm. So once I started realizing how much skill she had in building systems for, you know, clinics and nursing homes and things like that, I started telling her what to say, how to say it, so she could enroll those clients. Then I realized afterward, I said to myself, if she had had business systems in place, an online digital presence, she could have potentially had three $30,000 plus contracts minimum, and it could have been a minimum 90K day versus a 15K day. So having those
yeah.
skills, talents, and having that expertise and authority is great, but then also having the confidence to show up on camera, which can be really difficult in today's environment, because there's so much you know, negativity at times toward people online. They can hide behind their keyboard and laptop and say something negative as you're kind of stepping out there and making yourself known. So in some ways, I don't mind a little bit of the different hiccups that happen, like with the power outage and whatnot, because this shows we're real and genuine and authentic, and it's okay to have little mistakes happen or little things that are out of our control happen, because we can still show up genuinely and authentically. But I guess my main point about that is, you know, having all of those things in place, having that expertise, authority, and then being able to show up on camera, being able to have those business systems in place, being able to have a way to show up online and have a digital presence, can really accelerate women much higher. They can get a higher income, higher impact than playing small. So how would you address someone like that, who she has all this expertise and authority, but she doesn't even want to show up on camera? What would you do in that sense of being able to get her to move forward and they'll have, you know, obviously higher income if she's able to, you know, show up in that way online?
I think probably from the beginning, I would ask her, what is she hiding from? Because she's obviously, very old school, and that's okay. But, what is, stopping her from having an online presence? Is it the belief that, you have to look perfect? I don't know if anyone looks perfect or we all look perfect. It's just how we show up in the perspective of that. And to find out, deep down, what is stopping her? Is it she doesn't want computers? She doesn't like tech? Is it because she knows from a science perspective, maybe all the emissions coming off a computer will do something to her brain? Like sometimes I've had some crazy conversations with people and, it's like, oh, okay, you want to respect that. But also it's like, okay, do you want $15,000 days, or could you manage a $90,000 day with the same 3 clients? Because maybe it's the perspective of, no, I'm okay at 15,000. I don't have to be online, but, oh, I'd love to be, at the 90,000. Well, then there's things you have to put in place. There's, the back end software to help emailing, being able to, have at least one social media presence somewhere to say what you do. And maybe it's, then finding out what is she willing to do. Like maybe it's just LinkedIn and you want professionals and everything you post is just about being professional and nothing else, then that's great. Or do you want to be on Facebook and post about family? Like just decide where you feel most comfortable. And if it's a money issue, I just want to make enough money to survive, what does that look like too? Because there might be something else behind the scenes that she's not saying that, needs to be addressed. And maybe she was online before and something happened and she got off and completely deleted herself from an online presence, or she has seen something that she was afraid of. And it's just addressing that and then going forward. And, the majority of us are online. Are there people that are going to say bad things? Guaranteed everyone's got an opinion. But I tell women too, I said, if they were standing in front of you, they would not say what they said to you online.
Right. They wouldn't.
Right. Because 9 times out of 10, it's not even their name that's posted there. It's, RJ's, steel truck XYZ. Right. And it could be, the young girl from down the street. So it's taking it all in stride, but understanding that, it depends where you want to be. And there's things you will have to do to get there. So it's that decision and how you want to move past those limiting beliefs.
So just digging in and asking more questions of why are you not showing up on camera? Why is it because you're worried about how you look? I have some clients who say that they just do not like how they look on camera. So how would you address that with a woman as she's going into midlife 40s and beyond, and she just doesn't like how she looks, and that's the reason why she's not showing up on camera?
Well, and I used to hate being on camera. I used to hate doing little lives. And I started with something simple by doing a card pull on Mondays. But, in thinking it's not about me, thinking it's about my client, my potential client, someone that if I pull this card today, somebody's going to hear it and they'll either be in tears or happy because they needed to hear what was coming out. Right. So when it's not about me, then I can do just about anything. Right. Once we internalize and our leadership goes, well, wait a minute. No, that's dangerous. That's scary. We don't want to do that. Then it makes us step away. And there was a lot of times too, where I've had women who didn't want to be online. And I said, okay, so then do you want a faceless YouTube channel and still be able to tell your story? You can always use your voice. You can be audible. There's other ways of doing that, right? Whatever you feel comfortable with. Again, it comes back to what is your overall picture of your life and how you want to move forward sometimes.
I love that because like you said, there's probably a lot of women that have gone online and then maybe something happened or a certain comment was made and then they just totally deleted everything, went offline and stayed offline for a long time. Or maybe something happened, that caused some grief or something where they had to, take time to heal from, but to really encourage women to show up. And so that they're able to encourage others because they might be able to reach someone that, someone that's showing up all online and looking all amazing all the time can't reach because they're not as relatable. So
That's true.
I really like that. And then what about if women, they're not showing up online because I guess not only about how they look, but they're concerned about what other people think. Like what is something that you can encourage them to do to overcome not just what they think now it's about like what do other people think about them? How do they overcome that?
And that's a big one, right? Because there's so much out there and you feel like an imposter. So imposter syndrome's huge because, oh, they know more than I do. You're in the menopause space, but you're not a doctor. Oh, I've been told everything. So one person got mad at me because I was interviewing someone who does biometrics, and she said, well, now Allison does biometrics. Oh my gosh. Like, I had this real long rant, and I messaged her. I said, thank you so much for your input. I'm sending you off with love. And then I deleted the post and deleted her. Right. And it's like, that's your opinion. That is not who I am now. That is not where I stand. That is not the projection I want to give. So, something in you got triggered, not in me. Right. And it's getting the person to understand that if you say something that triggers somebody else, sometimes that's a good thing, because now they have the awareness of what that is. You may not like how they're reacting to it, but eventually they're going to respond differently, because that's going to come up somewhere else with someone else that's closer to them. And there's going to be that huge aha moment. So think of yourself as the catalyst for opening up that space for them. Send them off with love, delete and block them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say next. Like, what is the mindset of the person that's doing those negative comments? Because we were always taught, if you have nothing nice to say, just don't say it at all. So what do you think is happening in the person that's hiding behind the computer, putting everyone else down? Is it because they feel so bad about themselves that they need to pull other people down? And yeah, so did you want to maybe address that as well from that perspective?
Absolutely. Because you find that, and during the day I work for the government in Sault Ste. Marie. So I have a lot of people who come in, a lot of homeless people, a lot of people fighting for something in the government. And when the homeless people come in, like, they all gather together. They're very negative, right? They don't like policing. They don't like the world. They don't like the Sioux. They never get the right pizza. Like, there's always that negativity. And I said, you don't want to be around those people. And people keep saying, you are the 5 people you're closest to. Take a look at that, because if you're with and around some people who are very negative all the time, it'll pull the negativity out of you, because that's the strongest emotion and the strongest energy that's sitting there. But if you're around people like us, we're happy, we're taking care of people, we are leaders in our industry, we are looking to uplift other people into their business glory and into what they need to do, then you surround yourself with that type of people, the negativity falls off. But you have to decide sometimes, and people say, yeah, but it's, it's my uncle, or it's my cousin, or it's my brother. I said, you can love them from afar. I'm not saying they're not going to be your uncle, or you're not going to go to Christmas dinner, but you don't go out of your way, to make sure that they are part of everything you're doing. If that is the negativity, at least right now, until you get strong enough that when they are there, that's not a big focus for you.
I love
Right.
that. And while you were talking, I was just thinking about how oftentimes I'm really surprised when people get really angry and upset and they want to, say something nasty online to, if somebody on my team is just reaching out and wanting to get them to book a consultation, or, to talk to them about what we do. Or sometimes when I've been on consultations and Zooms and somebody would get angry because I give an offer. And I'm thinking, my goodness, I love to be given offers all the time. I love actually to see every advertisement online when all those things pop up on. I don't even pay for the YouTube subscription anymore, because I want to see what the advertisements are that are going on, to know what's happening in the marketing industry and what's taking place. I love to receive offers, and I feel that those that close themselves off to receiving offers, then that's what's going to happen with them. Everything is about the law of sowing and reaping, and the law of, whether people say attraction or the secret, that whatever you project out there is what's going to happen to you. So if you hate being sold to or being enrolled into something, then people aren't going to be open to what you have to offer and sell and enroll people into. And I thought, am I just someone, that's kind of unique? Because I know that nobody really likes seeing those advertisements pop up on YouTube. But then I just saw a really high-end business industry leader who he made over, I think it was 160 million in a weekend earlier this year. And he's
Wow.
like a real industry leader in being able to do that type of launch. And he just said on a YouTube video a couple weeks ago, he says, I don't pay for the YouTube upgrade because I want to see all the advertisements that's going on out there. I want to see what people are doing. And I thought, oh yes,
Absolutely.
I'm thinking like 100+ millionaire here, because I think he's probably closer heading toward the billionaire status because of just, how much he's doing. But I thought, oh, I think just like him, because I want to be seeing what people are offering me. I want to know what's out there so that when I give offers, they're going to be, well received as well. And I can stay ahead of what's happening in this, digital era where everything's changing so rapidly. So some people may have, an idea that they want to put out there with leadership or business, but if they're not getting it out there quickly enough, the whole industry is changing so rapidly. And I think it's changing minute by minute almost now. So, yeah, what are your thoughts regarding that? Being open and receptive to what others are saying and doing, and not trying to put that down, because then, how would they feel if someone did that to them and said those, comments to them? Yeah,
Well,
what
the
are your
first is I love the reframing. I love how you
Mhm.
reframed it from, everyone going, oh my gosh, I can't wait till I can click this, skip button. And I'm like, yeah, but do you not want to know what's going on? I love that, right?
Mhm.
Especially in business, because when you're looking at someone else, if you're trying to model someone else, they're, wealthy, they're in your space. What are they doing differently? Obviously, they're doing it for a reason.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll look into it, right?
Yeah.
Be open to those opportunities and the difference that happen. But sometimes in the beginning, when I find them, they're so overwhelmed with certain things that we have to, again, slow down, cut stuff out, move stuff out, and give them a reason to look, right? Like you say, you're looking at the different ads. How are they crafting things the way I craft things? They're making a lot more money. Let's just take a closer look at what they're doing. Like, that's modeling success. So you want to look at that, you want to follow that, you want to see. And you don't have to do it for all of them. Skip some that you don't like if it's coming up with, Cottonelle or whatever else. You don't need to know about toilet paper. Hit skip. But I mean,
Or sometimes
it's
it's the same one over and over, then yeah, hit skip. If it's something new,
absolutely.
then to kind of look into that for sure. And just being open to going, that's great that I'm getting so many LinkedIn inbound messages that everyone wants to work with me. That's wonderful. And what I say to my
Yes.
clients is enroll them, be the master enroller. If you end up in a sales call and you didn't realize it was going to be that, or you went onto it, you can actually enroll them first and say, yeah, that'd be great. I'll take a look at that. But this is what I'm offering, and be that master Yoda and their baby Yoda, or master enroller and their baby enroller, and get them to enroll into what you're doing first and then look at theirs. Because
Mhm.
if you're totally closed off and not interested in anything that anyone has to offer, and you start to encounter those people, then how is your business going to grow and develop and scale up? Because you're going to be putting out there and attracting the same type of people that are just like complaining about all the advertising and complaining about all the people making you offers on LinkedIn or whatever platform you're
Yes.
on. But instead, embrace that. Look at the economy is going to thrive and be amazing, because everyone is wanting to start a business or a side business. And I think that's what we really need right now. Instead of complaining about the economy, let's make our own economy, and let's bring in those leadership skills that you're offering with the leadership recode, and get those business systems in place and have that digital online presence. And I think we make a powerful team, Allison. So if everyone books in
Absolutely.
today with both of us, I'll give an extra bonus when somebody books in with Allison as well. And we'll get you moving forward in your leadership and business together. So I thank you everyone for joining. I appreciate you for coming on to Business Freedom and Legacy Summit 2026. And please go to businesscoachingamerica.com/summit and register for next Thursday. We'll be meeting again at 9 a.m. Pacific or 12 noon Eastern. And I'd love to have you come on again, Allison, on one of these Thursdays coming up again, because it's been a pleasure and exciting. And I think you have a lot of wealth of knowledge and expertise and authority that people don't realize. You have this depth of
Thank you.
wisdom that I think is really amazing. So book your consultations with us today. Get your VIP upgrade access with businesscoachingamerica.com/VIP-access. And I'll give you extra bonuses as well when you book in with both of us. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Cheers. See you next
Thank you.
Thursday, 9 Pacific or 12 Eastern. All right, take care. Bye-bye.